Hello and welcome to another glorious episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, MrBooMStickXL. And not only did I put some of the hottest topics in gaming together, I have a stacked guest list that will have everyone entertained for the next 2+ hours. So let's get right into the introductions so we can break down these hot off the presses topics. First up, you know him as the leader of the Sesh Empire, die-hard gamer who takes the time to appreciate the finer points of game design. I know him as an old school gamer by day, superhero podcaster by night. Please welcome So Shady.
Thanks, Boom. It is damn good to be here once again. Breakfast with Boom is live. We got some insane topics lined up, an incredible panel we've managed to put together for you guys. Thank you for joining us. Let's get her going.
Nice. Okay. Well, next, he's a content creator who has a passion for gaming, and it shows. Showrunner of the Shop podcast, lover of all video games, enjoy reading sci-fi and fantasy books. He's a pretty cool husband and a proud father. Please welcome PTK Blam.
What's going on, everybody? Glad to be here, man. My second time on the show, if I believe I've been on here. Yeah, I've been on here once before. Second time on the show. So thank you for inviting me, man. You've been on my show. I appreciate you so much, man. I am ready to talk about these topics. Roll right out of bed, ready to go, man.
Nice. Well, listen, welcome, and glad to have you back. Next, he's a community member who has some serious podcasting skills. He's a huge Godzilla fan. His skills in the Black Desert are legendary across Valencia. He has skills for days in Rocket League, and he's a proud father and husband. Please welcome Tempest Sun.
Boom, I love you, man. See, this shows that you give a damn. You came on here, you're like, let's do some Black Desert research. You're like, you found out this, found out that, threw it in there. I freaking love it. You're awesome, bro.
I appreciate it. Some people might consider it stalking, but I do check people's timelines simply because I like, I like putting the stuff out there. It's my detective skills. I put on that hat and it brings me back to the NYPD days.
Well, some people, the game's so deep, some people get in there like, what the heck's a Valencia? And Boom knows what it is, man. I tell you, he's awesome.
Nice.
And actually, it's funny because I actually looked it up and seen exactly where the world was. I was writing until 1 last night, so I do my work. But that's listen, awesome. I appreciate you being here. Welcome as always. Next, we have a division agent still fighting the good fight for his hometown of Washington, D.C. One of my personal favorite podcasters, panel member of BRAP and the Scumcast, part of the secret organization known as the Spectres Unit, and he holds the position as Nintendo Switch ambassador. Please welcome Slow-Mo Backslap.
Nintendo Switch ambassador. That's funny, bro.
Well, I know you're always posting about Nintendo Switch, so you know what? Let's make this guy an ambassador.
Hey, you know what? Look, I enjoy my Switch.
Me too.
My lunch breaks are a lot better with my Switch than without. So, yeah. I'm ready for these topics, man. Thank you for the introduction. It's funny because like every single time we podcast together, like, I mean, you have a completely different intro than the time before. I'm like, I mean, I can't even think of enough things to say about myself, but boom, back down. Next time I do a job application, I'm just going to ask Boom to do my cover letter.
No, I definitely appreciate that, dude. I learned from watching the master Lord Cognito of the Iron Lords podcast. He does some really good ones. So after being on the show a couple of times, I was like, you know what? I kind of like the way this guy's doing it, but I'm going to kind of do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that they definitely like it. But thanks for being here, dude. It's always great to hear your opinion about gaming. So let's move on to the last person of the panel, and of course, in no way least, making his Breakfast with Boom debut. We have an old school game who started when Pong was a thing, proud service member of the United States Air Force, quality member of the Twitter and YouTube community, and a pizza connoisseur. Please welcome Mojo Blues.
No, it makes me feel a little unworthy, but thanks, Boom. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. And you know what? I mean, listen, everybody has a voice. We try to get everybody on here. First time people that have never been on, always welcome. People have been here 20 times. But I kind of want to start with the a topic that I think everyone is going to be interested, especially in the chat. Since Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare launched, Activision, has ruled the first-person market in sales. Having Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and of course Sledgehammer Games, each team having 3 years to do a game is a fantastic schedule. Well, this year it's Infinity Ward's turn, and their next installment is supposed to be the rumored Modern Warfare 4, but not actually remake. It's going to be a new game, and one of the biggest aspects missing from Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was, of course, the single player campaign, which is why I buy Call of Duties. The new single player campaign that they are going to be making, according to Gaming Boat, where I pulled this story from, it's going to be the biggest one in the franchise's history. Again, they're going back to that Jerry Bruckheimer kind of big explosions, big moments for you while you're on the battlefield, and I actually look forward to that. I think that the single player campaign should have never been removed. And unfortunately, the team that was responsible for Black Ops 4, as we understand from numerous outlets, they dropped the ball. They were so concerned with the open world battle royale game that they wanted to jump on the bandwagon for, that they had to cut it at the last minute. And that was a big problem because I didn't buy Black Ops 4. Well, as much as I'm excited about what's going to be happening in this year's Call of Duty with the new single player campaign, not all is going well at Activision. There are some new and very damning reports from Kotaku that are claiming that Call of Duty 2020, not this year, but 2020, is not going to be developed by Sledgehammer Games and Ravensoft. They have been both kicked off the project, and it's now been given to Treyarch, and it's going to be now Black Ops 5. So they're skipping, they're going right back to Black Ops. They're apparently going to have a single player campaign, but Sledgehammer and Raven Software, who have been working on Call of Duty for a while, being kicked off, man, that really just sends a bad message. I mean, the game is 18 months away, and we're already hearing that it's in development hell. I don't understand how that can happen. And, obviously, if you look at what's been going on with Activision, right? They had the Bungie situation earlier this year. Bungie's no longer with them. They got out. You heard prior to that, we had the Call of Duty Black Ops 4. The single player campaign got cut out because they weren't going to make the deadline. We're hearing now that the Call of Duty for 2020 is not going well. It's in development hell, and it's 18 months away. My question, and I'm going to start off with Shady on this. There are several things to unpack, Shady. First of all, are you excited that the single player campaign is back for Call of Duty this year? And the second question is, what the heck is going on in Activision? They don't seem to have all their ducks in order. Should fans of the series be concerned?
First off, yeah, I am excited to see a campaign make a return. I've always enjoyed the Call of Duty campaigns. They're bombastic, they're fast, they're furious. It's like Michael Bay in video game form, quite frankly. The story for me is always secondary. There's a lot of military jargon, a lot of saving the world from some big bad with a nuke, generally. And I just have a really good time playing them. I like them. I especially like them when they include some form of cooperative option. If anyone knows Shady, they know I love cooperative, man. I like that a lot. I would also love to see the return of the little missions that were like arcadey. You just kind of went in and you had to eliminate XYZ amount of guys or defuse the bomb or what have you. I forgot what they actually called them, but I loved that aspect of Call of Duty in the past. That's not coming out every year anymore. It's just these little one-off missions that I get to play with my friends. As far as the issues with Call of Duty, I mean, obviously they didn't have that campaign in Black Ops 4 because they had said that they had issues. It was too ambitious and they had to cancel it. And luckily, Battle Royale was as big as it is to come in and save Call of Duty's ass last year. But it's worrisome as a fan of the series, I would say. But it's also, I find, it's kind of interesting because it tells me that Activision is really trying to change up Call of Duty in some fashion. They're not going to release the exact same, I hate to use the word cookie cutter, but I'm going to anyways. The cookie cutter campaigns, I think they're really trying to mix it up and deliver something new that we haven't seen with this franchise before. And that's why they're coming into problems, because they have been basically, Call of Duty's been on like a factory. It's just they roll it out year after year after year after year. They're extremely similar. I think it's an amazing bang for your buck. I buy it every year. That's beside the point. They just manufacture these things like mass produced style. And I think this is the first time where they're really trying to mix up the formula, and that's why they're having issues. So on one hand, I'm worried, but on the other hand, I'm excited to see what it is that they actually are able to finally get together once they're able to start working together. It's not a good thing when you've got internal studios arguing with each other, which I guess is the big reason for this new Call of Duty having issues. And that's weird because Raven Software, they've worked with all the COD
for
developers,
years, dude. For
for the
years.
better part of like a decade. I did hear that the two the guys that started Raven Software, the two guys that started, they recently left. So that might be a reason for it. It's just like, the heads of the company, the main voice there has left the coop. They've flown the coop, the Ravens out of the nest. So maybe it's just a little bit wild over there right now. I'm not too sure, but it's a shame to see. It's never a good thing necessarily when you hear that there's troubles behind the scenes. But in this one particular, I think it's because they really are trying to remix that Call of Duty formula and make it new. So I'm excited what's coming. I hope they can, get their stuff together and deliver big time.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I'm looking forward to it because again, I'm a big single player, selfish experience kind of a dude. And I want this to be what we know Call of Duty could be. Tell a good story, give us an 8 to 10 hour single player campaign. And I don't mind spending the money on that because that's what I like. I don't play the multiplayer. Even if there's zombies, I honestly can care less.
Okay.
But you know what? I want to go to slow-mo on next on this, if you don't mind. This is troubling for a lot of reasons. Normally, you start hearing development issues within the year of the game's development. Like, if we heard this in February or March of 2020, like, well, that sucks that they're having problems, but we're not even halfway through the year yet, and we're hearing that the Call of Duty 2020 is in development hell. That has concerns for me, but what do you think about that, dude?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I like So Shady's icon because I know where it's from. It's like the 80s
Transformers the movie.
Hot Rod.
Yeah.
Oh man, that movie is a part of my childhood.
Light our darkest hour.
About Call of Duty, I've never really been a big Call of Duty fan. A friend of mine gifted me the last year's version of the game. And I had a little fun with it, but typically what happens with me in Call of Duty is I have a little fun with it for a couple of weeks, and then I get bored and I move on to something else. But this whole thing, I've always found it interesting, Activision's method with Call of Duty since the founders of Infinity Ward rolled out, with having 3 different studios just kind of doing this, consistent schedule. I do have to commend the actual developers for the work they've done, because really you really only have 3 years to get this game from pre-production, production to post-production and ready to go. And up until now, everything has been pretty seamless. I mean, yeah, some of the games have been better received than others, but at the same time, like, the games came out on time and they were working games. I mean, we've seen other games.
Oh yeah,
like 6 years in, and it's a train wreck. So I do have to commend those.
Sorry.
Yeah. I really commend those devs for being able to do that. Yet I'm not surprised that here we are, and finally there's a hiccup, because in game development there's always going to be hiccups. I've seen devs talk about how, like, literally every single game is like you're doing it for the first time, even though they've been doing this for decades. It feels like each game development is its own animal that you got tamed. And I'm not surprised at all that there was some issues between, especially when you have 2 different developers, that were co-leading on a game with Raven and Sledgehammer. Something had to give eventually. So I don't know what this means for that game next year, which is funny because we haven't heard anything about the Call of Duty this year, but we know
Isn't that crazy?
We know so much about the one next year. That's like never happens. But it's for Call of Duty fans, I understand their concern with how this will turn out. But as far as I knew, and not being a big Call of Duty fan, that the Sledgehammer Raven games have always been considered like the not so good ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on who you ask, but go ahead.
Okay. So I mean, again, like I'm not shocked at all, and hopefully, if it's just one developer now, and Raven's now running with it now, and that's not Sledgehammer, right?
No, they both been removed.
They're both been.
Yeah,
Never
both of
mind,
them
I
got
read that
removed.
wrong.
Yeah, now it's Treyarch been given full reign of the game. They've taken over officially, according to this report.
See, look. All right, so when you have a developer coming in mid-development to kind of fix things. Imagine, it's like let's go back to Anthem, right? When the Dragon Age team had to be taken off their game got canceled. The original vision for Dragon Age 4 got canceled, so they could go and save Anthem. And we saw how that turned out. I mean, they literally had. I mean, they did the best they could, but the end result was, what is this? We don't have much of a game here. That's really troubling when you have two devs that got taken off, and now you brought your other one in. Treyarch's pretty good, but
Treyarch has actually become because back in the day, Infinity Ward, when of course the guy Vince Zampella was running it, they were the lead dogs, right? Everything went through them first because they made the best Call of Duties.
Mm-hmm.
Then the whole incident happened with Vince and his partner who created Infinity Ward got outed by Activision. Treyarch was up and coming. Treyarch became the lead dog, and Infinity Ward fell down to third. And then, of course, Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software took over at the second spot. Now it seems like they're out altogether.
Yeah, and that's See, it doesn't matter how good of a developer you are, if you don't have time, then because Activision is real. Like every single year, there's gotta be Call of Duty. So if you don't have the time, you literally have a year and a half to get this ready. And what if they come into development of it, they see what has been done, and they're like, well, 80% of this has to get thrown out the window. That's a problem. Yeah. That's a huge, serious issue. And how much time do you have to really get that stuff done? What if they have to create new tools? What if whole portions of the game have to be completely redone or redesigned? It's so much that goes into it, and not having the time to get that done means things get cut out. Means you're going to have a lot more.
I mean, they could, for all we know, 12 months of development could have been just thrown away.
Yeah, so it's got that cross-gen potential as well. So they're not only making it for this gen, but they got to be working in the next-gen stuff as well. So there's a lot of work there.
Yeah, and that's right. That's a great point. That's even extra work. So now they have to also make it tailored for current gen as well as the next gen. So that's splitting your resources on the team as well. It's I mean, I good luck to Treyarch, because they got their work cut out for them.
I think we're going to hear more crunch stories myself.
Yeah. Well, you know how that's going to be. Jason Schreier will be coming out of one of his rocks to get to tell that story. But you know what, PTK, I know you jumped in earlier about you said something about who's the best depending on who you ask. I want to get your opinion on this. Raven Software has been doing this for a very long time, and of course, Sledgehammer Games has been working with Call of Duty and Activision for I don't know as long, but they've been there for a while. When I hear that two, not one, it wasn't like one was screwing up and the other one was okay, we're doing good. They removed both developers. To me, that's a clean slate wipe. That's what that is. Yeah. And with 18 months to go, it sounds like a lot. Like, what are you talking about? That's 18 months. That's not a lot of time in video game time. What do you think about this?
Well, you know what? Oh, let me see. Full disclosure here, I'm not the biggest Call of Duty fan anymore. I used to be, but I haven't played it. I haven't thought Call of Duty was good in probably about 5 or 6 years now at this particular point.
That sounds about the time when Vince Zampella left.
Yep, right about the time. So I'm pretty much with everybody here as far as how the temperature feels on Call of Duty currently. But as far as just the recent news, it's not good. I don't really see how you could slice it to be good, because this reminds me of similar situation happened with Fable Legends. The entire, the whole studio got shut down. But anytime you take an entire team off a project, any portion of the way through it is never a good thing. And I'm not entirely sure what happened. Because they've been running a very, very well-oiled machine. Like Slow-Mo alluded to earlier, we get these things every year. It comes out like clockwork. I feel like Call of Duty's running, I call it the Madden syndrome, where you're so big, you get so comfortable with your position, you don't try to innovate anymore, and you just get comfortable. And battle, and they've actually benefited from Battlefield not really taking up the mantle that it was supposed to take up. You guys, I don't know if you guys remember, but remember when Infinite Warfare was being killed by the media? I think it was like the most disliked trailer on YouTube ever. I think, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that is correct.
I thought that was Battlefield's opportunity to step up and kind of, go to the forefront and push Call of Duty, but it didn't really take the step that we thought it would take, and Call of Duty kind of settled back to what it was, even settled further back by just jumping right into the Battle Royale wave, without really any prior experience, without really even asking anybody if they wanted that. And then they just completely cut out the campaign. So I feel like Activision is just riding the wave. They're trying to figure out where are we going with this game. And this kind of news is never good. I don't care how you slice it. First of all, I don't like to hear people losing. I don't know if anybody lost their job, but potentially anybody losing their job on these kind of things is never a good thing as far as the developers, because they are still real people out there that have to put in work to do this. But as far as what's going on between Activision and the studios and the game, I don't know how this is going to bode for the remaining Call of Duty, because like Somo said, that takes time. You can't reverse that and give them back that year and a half to go back. And there's a lot of things in that game that they're probably going to have to rework. We don't know the hurdles that they ran into when they stopped production on the game. So you're coming in very similar to the Crackdown situation. If anybody on the panel remembers, they had to, what was it? Sumo Digital had to come in about halfway through and finish Crackdown, and they did the best they could. So generally, when these things happen, we're definitely going to see a quality drop. We're definitely going to see some content that should have been in the game get cut out the game because of time constraints. So, I think everybody's pretty much on track. That, I don't have super high hopes anyway. But I think this next Call of Duty, and it's funny because I haven't heard anything about anybody have any idea what the one coming out this year is going to be about?
There's been no information.
Okay, I thought maybe I missed something.
No, there's been little to no information. All we've heard from the new Call of Duty for 2019 is that Infinity Ward is making it. It's supposed to be the biggest, most ambitious single-player campaign that they've ever done. And that's it. We've had no screenshots. We've had no videos. We've had no official reveals. Now, there's probably going to be something during E3.
Yeah.
I think they actually have a reveal coming up soon. It might be before E3, but we've heard nothing.
That's very unusual. As for a Call of Duty, we usually start seeing rumors a lot sooner. There's kind of a cycle with the Call of Duties. The first 3 months the game is out, it gets played the most, and after that, everybody kind of jumps on the next horse. So what's going to go on with the next one? The rumors, leaks start coming out. So that's very unusual that it's been extremely quiet. And then to hear the news about the next Call of Duty, it just kind of adds to what's going on. I think there's a lot going on in management behind the scenes that we don't understand, that we haven't heard about yet. Because once again, this has been a well-oiled machine for the better part of 10 years, I believe. Yes. And this thing is like clockwork. So whatever happened, it's never good when you see these kind of huge changes.
I wonder if them being so quiet means marketing rights might have changed. Maybe the big.
I didn't consider that.
That's a really great point, dude.
And I want to bring up something too, because Microsoft is really the only one having a E3 presentation this year, as far as like out of the big three, essentially. I always brought up the question: who's going to? I mean, there's for third parties, there's nobody else to show their games but Microsoft.
Right. Well, we've been hearing behind the scenes that people have been beating down Microsoft's door to get on that stage. And because of that, we may actually get a 3-hour show.
Activision doesn't do their own shows either. So they're looking for a stage. Like Call of Duty is not taking E3 off. There's no way.
No. I can't see that happening either. So that poses another question. What's going on? Because if that is the case, I wondered that myself. Like, that's the only out of the big three, it's the only people doing the show, so that's the only chance you're gonna get to really, get your game out there, get it shown to the masses, unless you just do some kind of like, Twitter release or something, or Twitch release or something. So that's interesting to see as well. I just think there's a lot of disarray, and this is very unusual for Activision with Call of Duty. They generally handle that franchise pretty well, and they don't really drop the ball like Shady was saying earlier. Even the games don't usually come out broken. So I don't know. It's very, very, very interesting, and we'll definitely see a lot more probably E3 about what this game is going to be, what the next one's going to be. So very interesting to say the least.
Yeah, no, really great points. Tempest, I want to go to you next on this because you actually brought up a fantastic point. We've been hearing for quite some time now. It's only been rumored. It's you've seen it. You've seen it on the 4chan forums. You've seen it on all the forum pages that Microsoft was going to gain back the Call of Duty marketing rights.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I can tell you this: there is some seriously concerning issues going on in Activision that are now becoming public. And it started all the way with the whole Bungie thing, and it's been completely spiraling out of control. But to hear that Call of Duty is having a problem is surprising because, like, everyone was, and I think everyone agrees that it's really usually a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. So the Call of Duty franchise, I like to call them relentlessly, consistently mediocre. Year after year after year, they get me excited because they do great trailers. They make me think something's actually going to change. And I have a bunch of local friends that I like to call Dubro first-person shooter fans. So it's every year. And my wife likes playing them. I like playing them because they're mediocre, but they're consistent. But it just, regardless of the campaign mode or the story, they're multiplayer. This is Activision, one of the biggest publishers there are, period. And you mean to tell me you can't pop the frickin' money and get real, not like hybrid dedicated servers, but real dedicated servers? This last Call of Duty, this Black Ops 4, bait and switched me so bad, I felt robbed. The beta, flawless. It was 60 tick rate. It was bam, bam, bam. I thought I was playing a Respawn game. All of a sudden, the real game came out, and they took that tick rate down from 60 to 20. And that first week was a mess. It felt terrible. I was just like, what is this company doing? Forget expanding this, expanding that, changing this. They need to get slapped and sent back to boot camp, man. They need to get back to the basics. They just need to have a multiplayer that works. When I shoot somebody, I don't want to have to imagine if they're phantom bullets. Did I hit him? Did I not hit him? I mean, just take some notes from some of the other shooters out there, for one. It drives me crazy. Year after year, it seems like they get worse. And on the topic of Raven, why the heck did that? I mean, Raven's made some killer games.
Yes, they have.
Soldier Forge. They made one of the better Star Wars games I've ever played, which I think was Jedi Knight Academy 2. I mean, that was them. I'm pretty sure that was them. They've made some killer stuff. And one of the better Call of Duty games I've played in recent memory was the remaster. I mean, if you played the campaign on that, they did a fantastic job remastering.
Yes, they did. That was very well done. Correct. That's a great point.
Yeah, that and the multiplayer, it felt pretty crispy. It did. It felt pretty good. I was like, wow, this is great. If they could just take this and apply it to other Call of Duties, that'd be fantastic. So they got some real issues going on there. You can't keep releasing game after game after game. It eventually caught up to the Assassin's Creed franchise, and they had
to take that year off. And of course, Unity was a disaster.
Exactly. They can't keep doing this because eventually other players are going to come into the fold. I mean, you got Halo Infinite coming, even though it's not the same style of game. You got Gears 5 coming. I mean, there's other options for people out there to play. It's not just Call of Duty. So, I mean, they're saying this one's going to be more expanded, like nothing we've ever seen. We'll see. But that's about all I can say there is we'll see. I mean, I hope so, but there's a myriad of different things they could change about the Call of Duty franchise to make it just better. I just want it to be better, so that way, instead of being consistently mediocre, and I get it and feel let down, I can get it and be like, oh, sweet, it's the next one. I just want that back.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And Mojo, first of all, again, I want to welcome you to your first Breakfast with Boom. What are your takes on the controversy coming out of Activision, especially on a game that's 18 months away?
I got a couple of different takes on this whole thing. For starters, thank God single player is coming back this year.
Yes.
I don't play multiplayer. I got a little story that I like to tell, and I'll keep the clean version here. But somewhere around Black Ops 2, maybe one of the early Modern Warfares, I decided to jump in. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do some multiplayer. I've been playing first-person shooters for years. You know, I'll be good at this. I was already past middle age at that point. I didn't last a minute. Some 9-year-old kid shoots me in the face, teabags me, and starts screaming over the microphone what he was going to do to my mama that night. Holy cow. I was like,
I remember those days.
Yeah, I'm not going to do any multiplayer again for a while. But anyway, let's get back to the point. This is actually fan service, them bringing back the single player, because Activision knows every game this generation, who's played the single player, how long they've played into the campaigns, and the people wasn't there. So when they decided to drop it for Black Ops 4, I think they didn't mind at all. I don't know what the actual sales was, but I don't think it was that bad. I think they still, brought the money in. But as far as next year's game being messed up, yeah, that's just messed up. You've got to stay on top of your devs. They have to hit those points in time where they've got to say, yeah, we're here on the game and everything's going good. And apparently they were maybe embroiled in some other stuff and maybe not paying enough attention. And now, 18 months to get a game that normally takes 3 years out, even if they use the assets that Ravensoft, already had, and leftover assets from Black Ops 4, I don't know if that's enough. It's going to make that game worth getting. But at least this year, we're going to get one. We're going to get a campaign. And even though I have no proof, I just got that feeling that the marketing rights is coming back to Microsoft. And it'll be announced at this E3, this coming game this fall. I'm hoping anyway. And yeah, I'm done.
All right, yeah. I mean, well, listen. Everyone had great points. Like I said, if you're a Call of Duty fan, and there are so many, I mean, listen, it sells millions and millions of copies. It's not a fluke. There's something special about the game that people keep coming back to. Of course, it's mostly the multiplayer. I happen to be very excited that at least I don't know what percentage it is. It's probably going to be a very low percentage, but you know what? We still are important, regardless, the 15 or 20%, that are going to play the single player campaign. It's important to offer both services to your fan base and, of course, into your customers. I don't know if poor sales, or there was maybe there's a lot of back and forth with the fans. Maybe there was an outcry of the single player people. Like I said, I was very public about not buying it, and I didn't. I didn't even win into I mean, I put in to win a copy, but I would not spend actual money on it because it didn't have the single player campaign, which is what I enjoy. But you know what? Everyone had fantastic points. I want to move on to the next topic. Capcom is a company that has been around for many, many years. They go all the way back to the NES era. And, they have always been one of the top developers coming out of Japan, especially for the States. And some big numbers were announced by Capcom, which I wanted to talk about because, and I say this all the time, a lot of people don't understand that in 2016, they were on the ropes. And when I say on the ropes, that they were on the point of possibly going bankrupt. And in 2017, with the release of Resident Evil 7, the company has seen a turnaround unlike anything it's seen before. And they have really moved themselves up to being one of the top developers, within this particular generation. So they announced that 4.2 million copies of Resident Evil 2 shipped. And that's big. Yes, it's multi-plat. Yes, that's across the PC. That's across the PlayStation 4 and, of course, the Xbox One. But that's still a big deal. That's a lot of copies for that game. Devil May Cry is currently sitting at 2.1 million. That's also good. And Monster Hunter Worlds has just crossed 12 million copies sold, and that breaks an all-time Capcom record. It's pretty incredible where the company has become. And again, this is a company that traditionally, they don't really go too far outside of the box, so to speak. And to see them take a chance with, coming back with Devil May Cry 5, right? They went away from 4. They did the remake. A lot of people didn't like it. They went back to the well, and it's selling very well. A lot of people. I don't know how many people on the panel played it. I love Devil May Cry 5. I think it's a masterpiece. It's one of the best in the series for sure. But as great as those particular pieces of news are, what's more exciting for me as a fan of being a fan of multiple things. First of all, being a big Xbox fan and being a big Capcom fan. Apparently, Capcom is going to show 1 or 2 new games come this E3 on the Microsoft stage. That is a big deal. And the rumors are that it's going to be either a remake of Dino Crisis 1, which would be awesome, and or the remake of Resident Evil 3, one of my favorite Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil's in the entire series. I want to go to you, Shady, on this. You're an old school gamer. You're also a Capcom fan. How does this excite you to see that Capcom is doing so well, but at the same time that they're going to be teaming up with Microsoft again to be on their stage?
That's exciting stuff. As an old school gamer, Capcom has been around since the beginning for me and has delivered just hits from like Street Fighter to Ghouls and Ghosts, Mega Man. Like they got so many games. Their catalog is deep, really, really, really deep. And they did have some struggles for a while here. I remember hearing a lot of rumors that they were, almost about to start peeling off their IP and selling it piecemeal to anyone that would take it.
Yeah, I remember
that. That was some worrying times because, Capcom, they're just it's like a mainstay in the industry for basically the entire time I've been playing games. And to see a company with that much prestige and history really start to flounder and like stare bankruptcy in the face, it's worrisome, really. It's not a good thing to see. And to see them just turn it around with Resident Evil 7 and Monster Hunter and the Resident Evil 2 remake, and they're just undeniably nailing it all of a sudden. And that is a very, very good thing, both for their company and for the industry. I mean, they're a Japanese developer, and I think that they are really moving forward with their games. I think a lot of Japanese devs are kind of stuck in the past, if you will. Capcom's not one of them. They have definitely broken out of the mold of the way things used to be, and they are delivering just hits like Resident Evil 2, that remake. That's how you do all remakes going forward, in my opinion. It was so good and such a perfect respect to the past while bringing such a historic franchise into the modern world.
Yeah, it's great point.
Wasn't just an up-res and maybe some smoother frames. Like that was from the ground up, the guts and everything was just totally redone, and it was fantastic. So if they can keep doing that with some of their older established IP that people have been clamoring for, and Dino Crisis was a great example there that's been rumored, it would be insane. It would be totally just amazing. I can't wait to see what they've got. Monster Hunter was my number 2 most played game last year, and it took me almost 8 hours of butting my head against it and stuff to finally have it click. But when it did, I could not put that thing down. Like the cooperative was so much fun with my roommate and my brother. I loved it, and I can't wait to see what this company has got for the future, for next gen coming and everything, man. I'm glad that they've got their footing back. And it seems that their confidence too, man. I like to see it. It's good.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Slow-mo, I want to go to you on next on this. Capcom is obviously, like Shady was alluding to, a storied developer. And they have completely turned around the company since, of course, like he said, Resident Evil 7 saved, I think, the company as a whole. And they've reignited the fans' flame with all of their classic franchises. What do you think about a new Dino Crisis and Resident Evil 3 showing up at the press conference for Microsoft?
That I think that would be great. My dark horse, and I'm not even gonna call it dark horse because I just know it's never going to happen. But I'm going to keep holding on for this. But I remember a Capcom fighter called Rival Schools that came out.
That was so good, dude.
Oh man, I was in high school and I loved that game so much. I wish they would bring that game back, but I just know it's not going to happen because it's like maybe like 6 Rival Schools fans that are out there like fighting the fight. So I would love for them to revive that. I think Capcom and also Ubisoft are like this generation's comeback publishers and actually best third-party publishers of this generation. Both, if you look at where they were, and we're at the end of this generation going into the next, but if you look at the end of the last generation going into the next, Capcom was kind of a joke. Ubisoft was looked at, well, very shortly after this generation started, Ubisoft started to look like a joke because of, you know, things like Assassin's Creed being completely used up and releasing too many different versions. Watch Dogs, the downgrade for Watch Dogs in the Division 1. Just like it's amazing seeing these two publishers just turning around.
The comeback kids of the industry for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And all it took really was listening to what the gaming community was saying about their games, listening to, you know, actually hearing what they had to say about what they were doing in their development. And with Capcom, I mean, we saw Resident Evil go from trying to be some kind of action game to going back to its roots of being a horror game. Resident Evil 7, y'all can say whatever you want about me, but I looked at Resident Evil 7, I said, you know what? I'm not gonna play that. That's just a little too scary for me. I'm good. I'm good. But you know, I recognize like this is exactly what like it reminded me of how I felt about the first Resident Evil game. When you're walking down the hallway and the dogs burst
through the window.
Burst through the window. Yeah, I dropped my controller when I was a kid. You know, it was just like, oh my, like I can't believe, like, and that's the kind of feeling that you want from Resident Evil. You don't want to be some kind of action hero with freaking.
Well, they try to make it like Gears of War. It seemed like
on steroids and whatnot. And come on, that's not what people are looking for. So I'm glad Capcom is turning it around, doing the remake for Resident Evil 2. Perfect, like that. It's almost as if there's a fan who's a huge Capcom fan, and he's just like, guys, you need to do this next. Okay, we're gonna listen to him, whatever he says. You know, like I wish Square would do that, because maybe, you know, they wouldn't have just now realized. I mean, not just now, but some years ago, realizing that people were waiting for a Final Fantasy VII remake. Because I mean that's something that people were waiting for over a decade before they finally realized, hey, maybe
we should go back to the well.
Most popular Final Fantasy game ever. I don't know. You know, it's great to see a publisher have their finger on the pulse and really understand what their community is looking for. And I'm really looking forward to what they got. I'm pretty sure whatever they're going to make is going to be awesome. And that's the kind of confidence that Capcom has engendered in me. Again, you know, they have my confidence again.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. The confidence, a key word in gaming that does not get used enough, and I think it's underappreciated, because when fans lose confidence, and it could be anything. It could be in a film director. It could be in a guy who writes comics or who writes books. You know, their last book was amazing, and this book is terrible. So then your confidence level drops. And if you look at what Capcom has done since 2017, pretty much everything that they're touching is turning to gold. And it's selling very well to them. And PTK, I want to go to you next on this. You know, the numbers themselves are great. We know Resident Evil 8 is far into development. That's probably going to be launching in 2020, right along with the new hardware. It would make perfect sense. Resident Evil 3, yes, it's being redone. It's being done by outside of Capcom, but under their supervision. So I actually don't have any too much worries about that. But a new Dino Crisis. Now, people have been clamoring for a new Dino Crisis for quite some time. And if Dino Crisis 1 gets the Resident Evil 2 treatment, I think we're going to be in for a real treat. What do you think about that, dude?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to piggyback off what I believe it was Slow Mo said, or so Shady may have said it. The two studios that I've been the most proud of are been Ubisoft and been Capcom. This entire generation. I made an entire video about it on my channel. Go check it out in the archives if you ain't subscribed to me. But either way, I think they've done an amazing job. And I'm super proud of Capcom, everything that they've done, everything that they've come from, because like somebody else said, they are a staple in gaming for me throughout my childhood with Street Fighter, with other games. And I know you had mentioned Rival Schools. I was a gigantic Power Stone fan.
Me
That's
too.
all I played
Yes.
on Dreamcast was Power Stone. I played every single day, all day when I first got my Dreamcast. That's all I played.
Yo, that was an awesome game.
Oh man, oh my God! Imagine that on like with a new generation upgrade. Oh man,
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
I know. Let me stop.
If you keep going, and we don't get like some kind of update to that at E3, it's just gonna be like this like, even though whatever they show might be awesome, I'm just gonna be disappointed. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I know, right? That's something that I really, really would love to see. But Dino Crisis is amazing. Once again, another game that ushered in this whole first-person shooter, one of their OG games, right up there with like Time Splitters, right in that same time vein. But I just appreciate Capcom, everything they're doing. Super proud of them, man. Super proud of them because you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys all here on the panel remember, even they put out games. They worked on Dead Rising, and even that didn't really work for them. You know what I'm saying? They did it with kind of exclusively with Xbox for a while there, and then obviously with the most recent one, they made it multi-plat, and that still bombed, and they still managed to get back to where they need to be. Revived, Devil May Cry, done some other things. Monster Hunter World has been huge, and I don't know. At the time when that was coming over, when I heard about it, I didn't know that it was going to be as big as it was here in the States. I knew it was definitely, a Japanese.
It's their biggest selling title in Capcom's history.
And I had no idea the power of that game. That game completely turned around Capcom. As far as, and another one was Resident Evil. I believe you guys said 2. Was it 2 or no, the 7?
7. Seven was really the company saw a big,
And they got back to survival horror, which everybody was missing. They started trying to make it an action game, which we've all alluded to here, instead of making it a horror survival game first. You know what I'm saying? That's what brought the people in. That's what everybody who loved Resident Evil wanted to see. But I'm super proud of them. I'm super excited about what they're going to be showing. Now, what new games or what unannounced games? To me, it doesn't even really matter. I'd love to see a remake of Dino Crisis. Obviously, I just said Power Stone. They got a ton of IPs. I don't think people realize how stacked Capcom is.
They have IPs for days,
they're sitting on like Sega level IPs. Like
yes,
them and Sega have a vault full of IPs that they could just throw a dart at a board and any one of them would be just fine if they decided to re-release it. So they have a treasure trove of things that they could possibly do. I'm just really excited at what we're gonna see. If they have any exclusive deals, I don't care about that either. I just want to see a good quality games being come out. But once again, I'm super excited about anything Capcom is doing. They've regained my trust because I was completely out on it. I mean, it was even to the point to where Street Fighter, which is a franchise you feel like all you got to do is put it out and it'll work out. They couldn't even do that right.
Right, that was a disaster on the PlayStation 4.
That was a huge disaster.
Yeah, that was bad.
The online infrastructure, the tournament, they had the tournament the same week it came out, and then the online didn't even work when it came out, so you couldn't have the tournament. It was ridiculous. So hopefully everything works out this time, but they've gained my trust back with everything they've done, hit after hit, and I'm just really excited about what we're planning on seeing from them D3.
Yeah, no, well, great point, dude. And of course, Tempest, I want to get your opinion on these about Capcom. First of all, they're the comeback kids, like I've said. Everyone has high praise for them, and it's well deserved. But a new Dino Crisis and a Resident Evil 3 remake to be up on the stage for Microsoft, getting the marketing rights on them. They had the marketing rights with, of course, Devil May Cry. Monster Hunter just went into Game Pass. They obviously have a great relationship with Capcom, and that's big. And all those trips that Phil Spencer was going over to Japan, he's been over there half a dozen times in the last 12 months, from what we understand, has been to garner this relationship, and it seems to be working. How excited are you to see what Capcom is going to show at E3 for Microsoft?
Well, I love this topic. And that's because I love Capcom. I mean, PTK just said it, the amount of properties they have. There's so many that you can just love, grasp on. You really can you could pick them out of a hat and just reboot it, and you'd probably be okay with that engine they have. Resident Evil 2, the fact that it sold so well. I mean, I'm a huge Monster Hunter fan, a really big Monster Hunter fan. The fact that sold so well. I didn't get a chance to play Devil May Cry 5 yet, but I am going to eventually. But Resident Evil 2 was so good. Thinking about a 3, it might even be better because of Nemesis. I mean, take Mr. X and amplify it by 10.
Yes.
you know. So, but to me, if you know, somebody made me pick one, honestly, dude, the RE engine, and what I would do is take a mixture of Dino Crisis 1 and 2, and I would reboot it, because Dino Crisis 1 was very claustrophobic. It was more of like it was like the sci-fi element of Resident Evil 2 in the lab. It was mostly things like that. It was very tight, condensed spaces, and it was scary. You know, the raptors took a lot of shots, and then Dino Crisis 2 was bang, bang, bang. You killed tons of them because they were constantly coming at you, but it was all overgrown, complex environments, which I loved. So seeing that in like the RE engine that we have now would be phenomenal. So I would actually take a rebooted Dino Crisis. I think that would be awesome. I mean, when's the last real good dinosaur game we had?
Oh, I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah,
Ark,
so I mean, good. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people liked it, but I don't know if it's good. You know, but no, I would absolutely love the Dino Crisis if I had to pick between the two. There's a lot of rumors going around that Dino Crisis is getting rebooted and it'll be at Microsoft Stage. I hope. I'll probably jump out of my seat and, you know, punch something accidentally. I'll be so excited if that happens. Yeah. So no, Capcom's doing phenomenal. Another game that I just, if they did, I don't know if they'd use the RE engine, because I don't know if it can go big open world. But one of my favorite Capcom games is Dragon's Dogma, especially.
That's a good one.
That's another good one. Yep.
That game came out of nowhere, dude. Like, who knew that Capcom was going to make a game like that? It's like a mixture of Monster Hunter and, like, you know, like a Skyrim or something like that. It was phenomenal. If they could remake that with this newer technology in these consoles, you know, or maybe hold off on it and do it in next generation, that'd be phenomenal. Just Capcom's in a really, really good spot, and they just need to keep on doing what they're doing, because I'm loving it. I'm soaking it all in.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, you know, Mojo, finish off this particular topic that happens to be a lot of people in the chat have been talking about it as well. So there are a lot of Capcom fans listening as well as on the panel. And I'm glad I actually kind of threw this in, because I'm a huge Capcom fan, especially Resident Evil. To think that, you know, the relationship with Microsoft and Capcom would be saying that it's good to be a complete understatement, in my opinion. Like I said, the rumors of having them up on the stage, everyone wants to be on Microsoft stage simply because Sony's not going to be there, and that's a big loss for a lot of these third-party developers, which is why we're hearing we might have a 3-hour show. But in regards to this particular topic, for you as a gamer, how excited are you to see Capcom flourish, which they're doing, as well as possibly showing off not one but 2 games on the Microsoft stage?
Oh, through the roof, Boom. I'm excited for this. And the 2 biggest stories about devs this generation, positive stories, are Ubisoft now basically being the best dev, bar none, this generation. But the more important story is Capcom's comeback. And my understanding is that Street Fighter is actually what saved them. Even though sales wasn't that good, Sony paid them a king's ransom.
Yes, they did.
Exclusivity. And they took that money, and that's what kept their lights turned on while they were doing Monster Hunter. And then once that came out, they've never looked back. But it's amazing to get 2 games from them at this E3. I've heard some people say maybe Dead Rising, but with Capcom Vancouver closed, I don't see that being a possibility. I've not heard of any other dev working on that. And they have so many IPs. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That second game, I think Resident Evil 3 or Resident Evil 8, that's going to be one of them. But the second game, that's so many.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, like everyone was saying, the IP list is stacked, and they could logistically wear a blindfold, throw a dart, like PTK was saying, and like, okay, we're gonna make this, and they would win. That's how well they're doing, and that RE engine is fantastic. I mean, that's their own stuff. They made that themselves, and it just seems to be working really well. You know, I want to move on to the next topic. And, you know, when we're talking about Capcom, we talk about storied and companies with history behind it. Well, according to PlayStation Lifestyle, which is a pretty good site that I usually get a lot of information from, they're reporting that Final Fantasy VII, the remake, there's going to be tons of character updates, combat changes, and additional details that should have Final Fantasy VII fans excited, but also greatly concerned at the same time. And if you saw the heading of today's show, it said Final Fantasy VII Remake, $180. That was not a typo, folks. That is what it's going to cost to play and complete this game over the course of 3 different entries. Obviously, this last weekend there was a large or a significant amount of Final Fantasy VII Remake leaks, and it started with the gameplay demo at the Sony event, which ended the Sony event, which I thought was pretty good. We've been hearing for a while that this was going to be in parts, so episodic. And of course, right away people started thinking like Telltale. Oh, I'm going to play 2 hours here, 3 hours there. Well, that's not exactly what's happening. What's happening is that this game is going to come out in 3 episodic game discs and making one Final Fantasy VII story. Each game disc is going to be retail priced at $60 US, which would bring the grand total to $180. Now, of course, the first part will cover the beginning of the game up to the point where, unfortunately, again, the game is ridiculous. Also, if you don't know this already, I'm not spoiling anything for you. So I'm just going to say this.
Go ahead, bro. Just go ahead and say it. The game is like 25 years old.
Okay, Aerith dies. So that's where the first part is supposed to end. Aerith is obviously a big character in the game. If you didn't know that, and I ruined it for you, can just curse me out in the DM. That's fine, or send me a private message. It's fine. And you know what? That's fine. But the issue is this. Final Fantasy VII, I played it. I actually beat it twice. I had imported it from Japan, and me and a good friend of mine, Mike, that I grew up with, we actually went back in the days. We printed out all those game facts, where it translated the Japanese into English, and we had about 300 pages that we were going through. We actually beat the game in Japanese, and then I beat it again when it came out in America because I loved it so much. Obviously pre-orders are going to be going up, but really my question for the panel, and of course everybody, the 120 plus people watching in the chat, which is amazing, is $180 over the course of 3 games worth it? The question that I'm also going to ask is, how much of each part do you have to have in game hours? Like, let's say if each game is only 20, each game is only 20 hours, is that worth $60? Or do we need to make sure that they're giving us a 40 plus, 50 plus hour per game? Because Final Fantasy games, you can sink a significant amount of time in. I know people that put hundreds upon hundreds of hours into it. So it has me concerned. And you know what? What's more concerning is that Square has not talked about this. They have not rectified exactly how much of the game you're going to get and how long of the game is going to be. Shady, I want to go to you on this. $180 for Final Fantasy VII over the course of 3 game discs. Is that excessive to you?
Right off the bat, there's a little bit of a sticker shock where you're kind of just like, holy moly. But I mean, a lot of games will launch today at their $60 price point and then have right behind it a $50 season pass. And then beyond that, they're going to sell even more stuff and whatnot. So, I mean, it sounds expensive, but these are 3 full AAA games. Keep in mind, it's the one game that they've chopped into 3 because it's so big in the past and the amount of detail, I guess, that they're putting into it. It had to be chopped up because it's monstrous. So I think 20 hours is fair. If it's 20 hours to like complete everything, explore every nook and cranny, that's low for an RPG, a Final Fantasy, that's low. But if it's 20 hours to get through the story, I think that's a fair number. I mean, no one is upset that you can beat Spider-Man or God of War or Halo or Gears 4 in 20 hours and call it a day if you'd like, if that's what you're in it for, is the campaign. I think that's a fine number. I just hope that maybe the game doesn't release all 3 chunks in 1 year. That's a big ask. If all of a sudden you're releasing part 1, 2, and 3 at the beginning, the middle, and end of the year, I don't think that would work. They would have to break these up, maybe 1 a year. But, we've been waiting forever for this remake, and now we're going to wait for 3 years for the game to actually come out once it's kind of done. It just seems so drawn out and long, how many people are going to get into it, and then maybe not continue with it. It's not a Telltale game. They're not asking for $5 per little episode here. It is a big chunk. It's a AAA price. 20 hours is a big chunk of time to get to the end of the story as well. I hope it's amazing. At least like it looked really good. I like the idea of having the weapons that you find and stuff actually represented on your characters as they run around the world. Final Fantasy VII was my personal favorite. That's the one that got me into
that's my favorite
series.
Final Fantasy of all time. Yeah,
it got me into the series. I kind of touched on him a little bit as a young guy on the SNES and stuff, Final Fantasy 3, but I never got into him. And then Final Fantasy 7, I just remember the hype being around that game was insane for the time. It was so big. It was in every magazine that I was reading constantly. So when I got a PlayStation, of course, I picked it up. And I loved it. Oh my God. Like I had a buddy, he didn't play games, but he would watch me play games. It was just as entertaining to him to do that. So he would come over every day and we played Final Fantasy together. And we just absolutely adored it, man. That Cosmic Canyon, the dog character, you'd go to his base, the Cosmic Canyon, the music that would play there.
Red 13.
Yeah. Like the music that would play in that area, we would take breaks. Like we would play for a few hours, then we'd fly back, go to that area and just walk in so we could hear the music. Then we'd be cooking up our dinner and stuff while it was playing on repeat. Like we were so into it. We loved it. We tried to beat all the very end game, the big Titan guys and stuff. It was a hell of a game. I absolutely adored it. When I remember back on the series, to me, it really was like a Cloud looking for all the materia that I could get to slot into my weapons. I love that.
We got to talk about that.
Like, I thought that system was a Final Fantasy staple going in. Like I was very ignorant as to what Final Fantasy was because they number their games. I always assumed they were sequels to each other, but they're not. They're all kind of one-offs that just have reoccurring themes like the Chocobo and stuff like that. And I thought the materia was there forever. It was always there. So when Final Fantasy 8 and 9 came out, I was really bummed out that it was different. It's kind of like
it ruined those games for me.
It did. Like I have to draw my powers out of the enemies now, as opposed to finding a sweet piece of ruby or something that I slot into my sword. Like it resonated with me so much, that system and the summoning guys coming in. It was very cinematic for the time, especially that Knights of the Round summon was no joke. It was like 8 minutes.
Shit right there, dude.
It took so long. It was minutes and minutes and minutes. And during like the end battle against Sephiroth, which was the whole that's my memory of the game is the materia being big, the music in Cosmo Canyon being amazing, and basically it was Cloud versus Sephiroth. But in reality, that wasn't too focused on, to be honest. There was a lot going on in Final Fantasy VII. It wasn't just you versus Sephiroth the entire time. But that's how the media, I find, plays up Final Fantasy VII, and that's how my memory is of it. That is my favorite. So I'm interested in what they're going to do here. I'm glad that it's not like something crazy where they release the game and they're like, it's huge, and because it's so huge, it's $180 right now. I think that would be nuts. So at least they are breaking it up and giving us the chance to consume it on our level, maybe wait for sales, stuff like that. But I wish success on it, because my God, if there isn't millions of people that have been just waiting like crazy for something like this to come around, and the success and the sales could be absolutely staggering if they do this right.
Right. And that's the real ticker. I think they kind of know that this is, and Slomo, I want to go to you next on this. I think Square is well aware that this is the most beloved RPG of all time. And of course, that's going to change with people you ask. Some people are going to say, I see a couple people in the chat talking different, RPGs that they loved. But Final Fantasy VII universally is loved by pretty much everybody. And we know that the overworld map appears to be making a return, and it's going to be completely seamless. So that's big. Modes of transportation, such as the tiny Bronco and Chocobos, will also be making a return. I think those are like classic things that I think they have to be in there. One of the things I found interesting is the detail that they're putting into each character. When you equip the weapons, they're going to be seen on the actual characters, and accessories like materia that will be equipped to those weapons are also going to be visible. And I think that is really unique. And it goes to show you how much detail For you personally, the $180 is a bit of, like Shady said, it's a sticker shock. But at the same time, if this is done in 3 years time, where in 2020 we get it, and in 2021 we get part 2, 2020 3 we get or 2022 we get the part 3. Would you be okay with that? Does the $180 sticker shock kind of wipe away at that point?
It's a yes and no for me. And let me just start by saying I see a lot of people in chat talk about Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time. So
wow.
I would love for them to do a remake of that. And Chrono Trigger is just the joy. I have that game on literally everything that they've come out. Android, iOS, whatever. I have it. I own it.
If it came out for the Switch, would you buy it?
Oh, hey, I've looked on the Switch multiple times to see if they already did it or not. It's not on there now. And in regards to just Final Fantasy in general, like I played my first RPG ever was Final Fantasy IV, which over here on the Super Nintendo was called Final Fantasy II.
Yes.
And
yes,
that really got me hooked into RPGs. I played the next one, which was Final Fantasy VI, but over here was Final Fantasy III, was even better. And then Final Fantasy VII just like it seemed like at that time they were just getting better and better with each one. Kind of dipped off on 8, got it back with 9, but I've always been a big Final Fantasy fan. Unfortunately, I just haven't enjoyed any of them since 9, but. And to go back to 7, I'm actually playing 7 on the Switch right now. And the reason why I say yes and no is because it's a no. It's not too much money if they add additional content to it. And what I mean when I say additional content, I mean let's develop some more stories, some side other things going on.
Great point.
Because in the beginning of the game, Midgard, there's nothing to do with just the main quest. That's all you're doing. That's all that's going on. So like the Avalanche freedom fighters group, some may want to call them terrorists, whatever you want to call them, but those guys, you don't really get to know them at all. They get introduced, you barely know their names, they're dead, bye, move on. It's just like, okay. So like the reason why I say yes is a little too much is because unlike other games where you get additional content or everything all together may end up being $180, those are games that you haven't experienced yet. You don't know their story yet. You haven't played them yet. This is a remake. This is a story that we've already been through, or at least a lot of people have already been through. And if you haven't been through it yet, you can go play it on multiple platforms right now and know the entire story. Knowing the entire story already, and if they only do just that, if it's literally just them updating the visuals, doing the voice acting, having a better, not better, but a more modern gameplay engine for the fights, and that's it. It's the exact same story, dialogue, and all that. That's not, to me, that's not worth $60 per, because we've got that full. You can get that full game just looking
$15 right now.
Yeah, $15 right now, and then and get all of that. So I think they need to add more to it. They need to have like side missions with the Avalanche group before the plate comes down in Midgard. They need to have other things going on between Cloud and Aerith before they meet up with Tifa.
Yes,
you need to do more. Like when if the first episode ends with Aerith dying, I would like there to be more to do, because literally I recall hearing, I got this spoilers happen, and I got spoiled that she was going to die before I got to that part when I first played the game. And I recall just going around the open world, doing random fights, just trying to delay the inevitable, knowing that like when I went to this specific area, it was going to be a wrap. And I wanted to get her as high up as possible, because I mean, literally, she has all the same like limit breaks that everyone else has, but probably most people never even got a chance to experience them because she's gone so early.
Right? Yeah, a lot of people didn't do what you did. They went right through the story, and then you're like, well, she died. Bye.
Yeah. And so I just like there's so much to like. The game is a very deep game, and it came out at a time where RPGs were a lot longer than they are now. It seems for the most part, but I can only see it being worth $180 total if they are adding new stuff for you. So even for not just new players, but for the old guard who have played through this game before and be like, oh, I didn't know that about Wedge, or I didn't know that about Jesse. Oh, I didn't know, that kind of stuff. Like I want to see more in there. Like I want to see some character moments between Barrett and his daughter. Like a little bit more than what we already got. That's the only way I can see it being worth it.
No, I mean it makes sense for sure. There's no doubt about that. PTK, I want to go to you. One of the report states that one of the largest departures from the original game, Final Fantasy VII remake, will be the real-time combat system. A lot of the changes are likely to come with this, but the biggest one is the switch to a system that has a regular and heavy attack. You using a summon is also said to trigger a cutscene like in the original game, but of course it's going to be in what you would expect from Square-Enix, now. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be monstrous. The $180 price tag for a lot of people, they're both sides of the coin. It depends on how much content. In your opinion, what would be fair? Because Chaos Theory just dropped a $2 super chat, and he says 30 hours each part would be worth it to him per game for a total of 90 hours for $180. Is that something you could agree with?
Well, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not the Final Fantasy savant that some of these other awesome gentlemen on this podcast are, but I am a fan of Final Fantasy, so I did follow it while I was growing up enough. So I didn't play it a whole lot myself, but I watched a ton of people play it, and it was something that drew me in. Those cutscenes, things like that, the random fights, and just the mechanics of the way the game worked. I was so interested in how the game actually worked. It just pulled me in, and then the story and the characters caught me after that. So, but either way, I think that the big thing, just from a practical standpoint, content, you gotta give the consumer something different to me to justify that. Because think about it. I mean, if it really does come out and it's already experienced, a majority of us, especially people that have been waiting on this game for 10 plus years to come out, have already played this, then what is the draw at that point? Then it's just a cash grab. We're just breaking this up just to break it up. Now, I mean, it's a massive game, but to me, it doesn't feel like it's worth it for the fans that have been waiting. Now, if you're going to give people new content, new experiences, I get the nostalgia will carry majority of people. They'll be fine with that. But in all actuality, I feel like you need to give people a little bit more. It can't just be a remake. This game is too special for that. You got to give people, other incentives, in my opinion, and the wait. The wait, the time has been extremely long, and I think it would be worth it that you give people something additional to do during the game. But I'm extremely excited about it coming out finally. I don't know if I'm going to be picking it up, in all honesty. I'm probably going to be watching people stream it. Once again, I'm more of a
That's going to be a good streaming game. That's a great point.
I'm more of a watcher of Final Fantasy than me sitting there playing. I just don't have the patience. I just don't. I'm not that kind of a gamer. I don't have the patience to sit and collect things for 20 hours just to make one piece of equipment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really have the patience for that. But in all honesty, I'm excited about the game coming out, but I definitely think that they at least need to provide some additional content to justify the price. Because would that model work for any other game? Will we be comfortable with being like, oh, the next, I don't know, I don't say Halo, but pick something else. But the next, that doesn't really work with any other game. We'd be extremely critical, and we have. Think about what happened with Hitman. Because
that's great point. Great point.
Up until this generation, they decided to break it up, and we damn near burned that entire IO down. We completely flame them. So you got to give people, an incentive, even though they've been waiting this entire time. And I know the base game will carry most people, and they're fine with that. I just think as a consumer, we should look at a game like this and say, okay, y'all took your time doing this. And to me, them putting out a statement that vague is not bode well, because it doesn't sound like they're very confident at their release strategy. It's like, okay, we're going to be breaking this up, but we're not going to give you really any details on how and the hours and the breakdown and when the cutoff is. That's crucial for your gaming experience. I mean, because if you stop me and things are getting built up, that kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Then I may have to wait 6 to 8 months for the next one, or next year for the next one. That may not be a good thing. That may not be, and think about if they don't leave it off on a good part. Think about if they just drop it off on some random part of the game, then that may create a bad experience. So, which I don't think they'll do, but there's always a possibility. So I think that they definitely have to be clear with the way they put the game out, with the way they market, the way they talk about the game, because this game is too big, too many people care about it for them to drop the ball. So I just think we should all kind of be cautious. But for the majority of the people that are fans of Final Fantasy VII and are huge fans of it, I think everything will be fine. I don't really think there's anything to worry about. I just think we need to be a little bit cautious, though.
You're great point on that, because of course, Square is notorious for their delays.
Yeah.
So you would hate to get Final Fantasy VII Part 1 and have to wait 3 years to get Part 2.
Yeah.
That would kind of suck, and it would kind of really pull people out of the experience.
And another thing too, I want to add. I'm sorry.
Sure, no, go ahead, man.
Person is that you got to think about the time this game is coming out. That when we played Final Fantasy VII, you didn't have the kind of games that are coming out nowadays. People's time are being taken up by other games. There's quality games coming out almost every month. So if you're gonna break a game like that up, you got to make sure that content can carry, because we have so many. I mean, all of our backlogs are crazy right now, and there's so many other games
backlog is a word. Exactly. It's a dirty word.
Exactly. I know we don't like to talk about it. It's skeletons in the closet. I understand, but there's other things taking away our attention nowadays. So they definitely, if they're gonna break it up, they definitely better make it worth it, because I mean, if they don't do it right, there's other things we can go play. So.
No, that's a great point, dude, especially considering how much time you have to actually invest into the game. Tempest, I want to go to you. The one thing that we have confirmed is that the summons that we all know and love, Knights of the Round, Phoenix, Hades, Leviathan, Beaumont Zero, they're all coming back. And there's supposedly going to be at least, and I say this, at least one new one, which has me, look, I'm talking about this, I'm getting goosebumps, because, man, look, if you don't know what Knights of the Round is,
oh God,
my God, please go to YouTube after the show. You know what? I'll take the loss. Go right now and watch Knights of the Round. It is the most epic thing you could ever see, and it was done on the PlayStation 1. So just imagine what that's going to look like in today's graphics. Look, I've said enough. Take it away, Tempest.
Well, my top 3 games in no order: Knights of the Old Republic, original Xbox, Mass Effect 1, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 1, good old Final Fantasy VII. I love this game so much. I mean, there's so much you could say about this game, but the biggest thing about this game is just when I saw the trailer, now it feels like 5 years ago. Thank you, Sony, for doing that. But, so long ago, the first trailer and putting that out there, I was like, I just had so many questions. Like, this game came out in 97. So one of the big things I love about this game is it feels like real people saying real people things. And they touched on some topics that might be considered not PC or not politically correct back then. I really hope that they just translate it and say, I don't give a crap. This is the original source material. Let these people talk this way. Not just that, but it's a deep story. I mean, spoiler alert, like you just said, Ares died at the end of the first disc. I mean, who saw that coming, man? That's deep. That's like one of the main characters. You think she's going to be.
I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I cried, dude. I cried. The tear came down. I was like, no, what just happened? I want to throw. I almost broke my controller over it.
I mean, Tifa's probably my first crush. I'll just say it out. Tifa is my first crush, man. It is what it is. I was a Tifa fan. The scene
likes girls with big feet.
Yeah.
I actually named her a girl that I had a big crush on in high school. So when she died, I was devastated. I'm just like, oh no, not Katie. Oh, you destroyed me.
Yeah. So there's so much. Like, and the other questions I have, dude, like, let's not forget, this game is so big. It's a linear story, but there is so much to do. Yuffie and Vincent, they are optional characters.
Yes.
You completely miss those characters.
You absolutely could. That is correct.
Yeah. They throw Yuffie a little bit at you, but it's so easy to miss that little like puzzle they had to get her interested that you could just never see her. And they're not throwaway characters. Vincent's backstory is phenomenal. Yuffie's isn't as in depth, but she's still an awesome character, bubble personality, great. So like the first thing is, are they going to be optional? I doubt it. There's no way they can put the resources and time into modeling, animations, gameplay, and leave them optional. And if you break this up into 3 games, one of the neat things, it was 3 discs, but between all the discs, you level up and your power comes with you. A large part of these games is going to be going around the open world, going here or there and leveling up. What happens with the leveling up? If it cuts off and you start back at level 1 from game.
No, I don't think so. I think your save is going to continue. It would not make any sense.
I'd hope so, but you'd have to ask yourself, what are they going to do? Are they just going to have a like, let's say if you jump in at game 2, what's going to happen then? Like
that is,
are they just going to give you a level boost? Say like, oh, well, you should be around level 45 here, so you're just level 45. I mean, I guess they could do that. The other thing too is, let's not forget the second disc. You play as, I think that was awesome for me, but you play as Tifa so much of it, so it's almost like a main character shift in the second game until you get back to the third game. Excuse me. So there's just, I don't know how they're going to do this. It just kind of boggles my mind. I don't know how to tackle this, but the interesting thing is this is actually so big that they have to do this. I mean, you think Witcher 3 is big? This game has a world map and so many locations in it. I mean, it doesn't seem that big because it's a PS1 game. You go into this little tiny thing on this world map, and then you might have, 6 to 10 screens that you go through, and you talk to people, do this, do that through random battles. But if you try to put that in a 3D space and remake that and make it as big as it should be, I mean, Midgar itself, dude, that is a game in itself.
Yeah, it's big area.
They could honestly make that. I mean, other games have made, games in one city. Midgar is huge, so they could expand upon that. I hope they do it right. Like I said, it's in my top 3 games of all time, so I'm extremely nervous. I hope it's good, because if it's not, I will be devastated. But if they do nail it, it's I don't know. It'll probably replace, if it's good, it'll replace my top 3 with itself.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Real quick before Mojo, before I get your point, I just got to say a big thank you for the outstanding $10 super chat to SWT Bojangles. He says, great cast as well as first time donate and first time being vocal. Do you boom? First of all, I want to say thank you for being in the chat. Thanks for dropping that outstanding $10 super chat. And I'm glad that you are hanging out here, because this is a very friendly chat. In fact, it's been called one of the friendliest chats in all of YouTube. And I that's a big deal for me, because who wants to deal with nonsense, right? You want to come here, you want to come and hang out with other gamers and just talk and poke fun and enjoy the the panel and what we have to say. Shady, before I get to Mojo, you wanted to say something on this?
Oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to quickly say I really hope they deliver the game on Tempest, man. When it's in your top 3 games of all time and they got a remake of this caliber, I just hope it comes through and delivers on everything you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So Mojo, listen, a lot of people have a lot of endearing stories for Final Fantasy VII. It is a cult classic. It is one of the gems in the crown of the PlayStation 1 era. There's no doubt about it. For you as a gamer, the $180 price point over the course of 3 years, should it work out like that, is that okay for you? And what are you expecting in this remake?
Well, it's definitely not okay. and I don't care for the splitting it up, but I kind of get the 3 discs, releasing it 3 separate like that. But I'm not so sure every game needs to have a remake. Resident Evil 2 was ripe for a remake with the tank controls and the janky camera. As great as the original game was, playing it on a CRT, yeah, it was ripe for it. But I've been playing Final Fantasy VII on my X, and as much as I love to say 4K is life, I have 4 tube TVs sitting around my house, 2 flanking my 4K television, and I hooked up the PS1 to one of them and kind of went scene by scene in Final Fantasy VII with the version I've got on the X now, and it holds up well. But again, since it was so iconic, and it's the game that brought RPGs to the masses.
Sure.
I know Super Nintendo had Final Fantasy games and they had big RPGs, but they were still niche at the time. They really were. And Final Fantasy VII changed all that. So it needed to be remade, but it's been so long. And my understanding is at times they've had as few as like 5 people working on it and the one main guy, but now he's got full team doing it. But wow, one a year, one every 6 months. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that, but I'm pretty sure it will be spectacular. They're not gonna screw up their most iconic game ever. So I'm still looking forward to it. But at the same time, a little reservation on how it's being released and that price point. But as big as the game is, I think they can make it feel like you're getting one complete game for what you paid with each release. I just don't know that you'll get that carryover. Wow, a year later, I got to go back to this. I would almost rather wait 3 years and just release one massive great game. But then again, if they had to charge that price, would people choke up $180 for a single game? So maybe they have to do this.
I mean, it's possible that they're putting so much into. I mean, the game itself is going to be gorgeous. It's going to run great. It's those cutscenes that are going to be. They're going to be spending some big bucks on those, especially if they're bringing back all of the summons. You know, you get the Knights of the Round.
Yeah.
That thing lasted 13 minutes or something. It is ridiculous how long that summons were. So I
And
mean,
and I was going to say, did I blank out or I hear Mojo say he's got multiple tube TVs?
Yeah, he
in
has
his
CRTs.
living room here?
Yeah.
I'm a huge retro guy.
I'm instantly picturing the architect from the third Matrix movie sitting there with a bunch of tube TVs behind him. Like, oh my God. I mean, I've got one in my house, but it is certainly not in my living room. Kudos, bro, for keeping it old school.
Can I say something real quick about the remake real quick?
Yeah, go right ahead, dude.
One thing they could do, if it is going to be spaced out like a year apart, one way to not keep that stale is, you play Final Fantasy VII, there are some huge monsters. And if it's an action style combat, who's to say they don't release content as it goes and you get better stuff? So when you hit the game, the next one, you're more powerful. They can just, I don't want to say monetize, but they can release updates where you can find these rare monsters out in the world and they're incredibly difficult to beat. There's a bunch of things they could do to kind of keep you playing in, hopes of the next game comes out soon. I think there's ways to bridge that gap,
Yeah.
I hope.
I want to say one other thing.
Please, listen, this is a great topic. Keep going, man.
I think it was Tempest that said was talking about Yuffie and Vincent and how awesome they were, but they're optional, and you could completely miss them if you weren't paying attention to things. I did hear this, and I heard it from on a different podcast. I don't know if it's 100% true that it's going to happen, but I heard that they're going to move both of those characters, how you get them to the first game, to the first episode or release or whatever you want to call it, so that you would get basically all of your characters in the first game, so that from then going forward, you're kind of just building up in doing the story, getting all the other, not getting any more characters, but just building your characters up for the 2 and 3 of this release, which is I think that would make sense for Yuffie, because I thought her introduction was a little weird, but Vincent, his is kind of tied to his location too, so
that's true.
I don't think you get to him until you get to the second disc, so I don't know how they would do that, but it's an interesting thought. I'll be fine with that too, because then that's just more content going into the first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be changes. I think that it's going to be a close 1-to-1, but they have to add additional content, and they also have to. It would be great to know that there would be different parts of a particular character's history that gets explained, or that it wasn't explained in the original but gets explained in the remake. They could go back and do some parts of the game where you actually use a particular character the way you would use Cloud.
How about actually having the Turks be playable in the game?
Oh, that's great, dude. Yeah. That's a great point.
Did we forget the date, the classic date where you could actually go with Yuffie, Tifa, or Ares, but the kicker is you could go on that date at the theme park with Barrett. There are so many funny things you could do in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, all the mini games. I just thought about that. The gold saucer, all the mini games.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude. Oh, man, I love that game. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
all the
listen.
microtransaction opportunities in that golden saucer.
Look, I can tell you this. Obviously, this game is going to be big. If you've listened to the way this panel has been gushing about this, the world is probably going to be gushing. And supposedly, I just want to close out the last part of the topic that this is going to be coming, from what I understand, according to the article, as a PSN exclusive demo during E3. That's the rumor. I listen. I don't care where it is. I want to play it. I think everybody's going to want to play it. I would feel kind of shitty for Xbox players who don't have a PS4, but I think everyone should get a chance with this. You know, obviously we know that Square is going to have a deal with Sony on this game. There's just no doubt about it. But, you know, before I move on to the next topic, first of all, there's two things I have to say. First of all, we had over almost 140 people watching. Please hit the like button. It really, really does help the channel more than you know. If you're enjoying the content, if you're not, then please, I encourage you, hit the thumbs down button, because I'm not going to make anybody like the show if they don't like it. Second, I have to say a big thank you to two people. George Driver with the outrageous $5 super chat. He says, love the panel, Boom. Keep it up, fellas, and thanks for making work go by via awesome conversation. Shout out to the chat and hit the like button. Yes, thank you, dude. I'm glad I can make work cool for you on Friday mornings. And a very good friend of mine who I grew up with, Jay the Destroyer, drops an outstanding $2 super chat. And if this is not a surprise, because he's like a boom buys everything kind of a guy, he bought the Oculus Quest, best VR ever, insane product. So yeah, I have to try that when we hang out. But I want to move on to the next topic, and it's about Sony. You know, Sony's been in the news a lot, and we're not going to talk about the niche comment that the president made, because everyone's been talking about that. That's boring. Okay, I think maybe that he misspoke. Maybe they caught him out of context. Gaming is not niche. The PS4 is far from a niche product. But I want to talk about the PlayStation productions. They are looking to adapt Sony games for film and TV. And I think that not only is this a good thing for gamers who want to experience more untold adventures, it's good for the industry, because obviously in our history as gamers, we have had some pretty terrible freaking movies when it comes to games. I mean, really, they're notoriously horrendous. And Sony Interactive Entertainment has announced that they're going to launch, of course, PlayStation Productions, and they're looking to create their own MCU, which would, of course, be the PSU, the PlayStation PCU, the PlayStation Cinematic Universe. This was reported by the Hollywood Reporter that the new enterprise will be led by Assad Quizabash and overseen by the chairman of Worldwide Studios at SIE, Sean Layden, who I really do dig. Sean Layden, I think he's a cool dude. People break his balls with his weight. Leave the guy alone. He cares about his fan base. I actually really like what he stands for. And you know, Sean Layden had some really interesting quotes during this interview, and I want to just read a few of them to everybody so that you can get, before I start, you know, getting the answers from the panel. He had this to say: we have 25 years of game development experience, and that's created 25 years of great games, franchises, and stories. And we feel now is a good time to look at other media opportunities across streaming or film or television to give our worlds life in another spectrum. He continued with, we look at what Marvel has done in taking the world of comic books and making it into the biggest thing in the film world. It would be a lofty goal to say we're following in their footsteps, but we certainly were taking inspiration from that. And the last quote, he says, you can see by watching older video game adaptations that the screenwriter or director didn't understand the world or the gaming thing. The real challenge is, how do you take 80 hours of gameplay and make it into a movie? The answer is, you don't. What you do is take the ethos you write from there specifically for that film audience. Do not try to retell the game in a movie. My God, that is so exciting. First of all, I have to welcome the Don to the panel. Welcome, my friend.
Hey man, I also gonna have to say I'm sorry, man. I totally forget it was Friday, and I knew it was happening. And then, man, I'm getting used to not doing podcasts. And the next thing I know, like, wait, I'm on one. What's going on?
That's all right, dude. Listen, you'll be here for the last 40 minutes or something. Anytime you're on the panel, it's always great. Great to have you. And I'll come back to you on what we just talked about. So Shady, listen, we're old school guys who have unfortunately witnessed and been, I guess, browbeaten with terrible monies that we've spent when it comes to video game movies. But it seems like Sony, they're doing it right with their first-party games. We know, I mean, listen, there's no secret why they won this generation. But if they can bring the same kind of excellence in first-party movies, how exciting is that for you, man?
It would be a good thing. Video game movies, I've got a love-hate relationship with most of them. They're of varying degrees. I tend to look at a video game movie and compare it to other video game movies. That's it. As soon as I compare them to real movies, that's when it starts to get a little rough on all fronts. So, I mean, I hope they can deliver on a lot of it. I'm hearing rumors that it's going to be the Twisted Metal series is going to get one.
Yes,
I mean, like, correct. I don't know what kind of story you're going to spin up for a long-running TV franchise about a bunch of cars shooting missiles at each other. And, it could be really good, could be bombastic, and just be a fun romp. And that's really all it needs to be. And that's totally fine. One thing I would like to say is I don't want to see or hear a single Sony PlayStation diehard fan
I knew it was
in
coming.
the beginning of this gen hyping up this stuff, because my God, if Xbox didn't just get blasted for having anything to do with TV.
That's a great point. That is a great point.
Announcing a Halo TV show in the works and stuff like that. My guys, we play video games. We don't want to watch movies. We don't want to watch TV shows. It's games. That was the mantra. And at the time, even Sony was making a TV show, whatever that Heroes one was. I watched it. I thought it was abhorrent myself. And like, they've been involved in this the whole time, but Xbox just got blasted so bad for involving TV in any way. And now it's all of a sudden PlayStation coming out loud and proud that they're going to go and take their franchises and make TV and movie stuff out of them. I mean, I made a joke on Twitter that, what's that? Sony's making movies and TV shows out of their exclusives, so nothing's changed. Nothing. But it's just a joke. Their games are good games. They're video games. They're not movies. They just have a very cinematic feel, a very awesome experience that's added to that a lot of other companies just aren't doing as well. So I hope they can bring what they've done with their games to the big screen, to the small screen, and do it well. I am tired of video games just not doing well when they transfer mediums, because the stories are fantastic. The gameplay moment to moments are fantastic. And I'm not too sure what is the real issue on going from one medium to the other. I think there's a lot of these guys that are trying to do a bunch of fan service, which falls flat.
Yes,
they're trying to make, they're also trying to, like, make these movies and stuff, maybe for an audience that's never even heard of the game as well. Like, it's just this weird mixed bag almost all the time. Like, they're making a Mortal Kombat movie, I hear now. It's been greenlit. A lot of people are really excited.
Oh, dude, let me tell you something. I'm glad you bring that up, because James Wan, if you don't know who he is, he has directed all of the horror films from the Conjuring series. He also directed Aquaman, which was amazing.
Yeah, well, I loved Aquaman. It took me by a huge surprise. I mean, the whole world was saying how good it was, but I just didn't believe it. And then when I watched it, it was just, okay, yeah, they were right. It was good. Like, I'm excited for it. I enjoyed the Mortal Kombat movies because I was a kid when they came out, and I love the series. But I think in reality, the story of Mortal Kombat is so out there that it works best in a video game form, where after a couple minutes of cutscene, I get to actually play something and have fun in that way. And then I go back to the crazy story for a few minutes at a time. people take movies and TV shows just way too serious these days. And that Mortal Kombat story, you know, the fate of all the universe and dimensions and time and everything will be decided over a karate tournament. Who shall win 10 in a row? Like, it just seems ridiculous, really, especially when I'm watching it on the big screen. I hope they nail it and it ends up, I'm wrong. Like, I hope I'm wrong. And it's just incredible. But I think a lot of video games should just maybe stay video games. There's nothing wrong with that. That being said, I hope that the ones that can transfer over, like I think an Uncharted show or a movie could be great.
Uncharted, that there are so many that could be converted to a show
really,
or to a
really
film.
cool.
Yeah.
Like they do have a lot of franchises. I think they'll be good. They've already done the Ratchet and Clank movie.
Yes, which was great,
you know,
by
a lot
the way.
of people enjoyed that. Yeah, it
really
looks
good.
great. So I'm excited for the Halo TV show. I hope they're going to nail that. All signs.
They're saying that's going to be as big as Game of Thrones. That's
it's like their biggest budget. They're going all in. It's got years and years of development. Like, I'm so excited. It's got, you know, all the room to let me down, but I'm going in hyped with that. So I wish Sony the best. I really hope that this becomes a thing for them and we get actual quality content worth watching. You don't have to be a huge fan of the games, but at the same time, they pay respects to those that are fans of it and stuff like that. Like, I really want to see some of these games get the respect they deserve on the big screen and on TV, because it's been kind of lacking, well, forever. Like, I think Warcraft is almost the best video game movie out there as far as the effects and the AAA budget. Like, they really, really tried with that. And I think it's a pretty good movie. But I mean, that's only when I compare it to other video game movies. So I like to see it turn around, and all of a sudden we're seeing all these franchises that we've grown up with for the last 30, 40 years, and some of the new ones that have come out of nowhere just come out and be insane. Like, I remember there was talking about like a Titanfall show for a while and stuff. Can only imagine. It would be incredible. Like, some of these franchises just, my memory, or not my memory, but my imagination goes wild, and I just hope one day someone out there can deliver on all fronts with it.
Yeah, it would be great, and I'm hoping that they do start with that. You know, so Shady. I'm not so Shady. Slow-mo backs up. I want to get your opinion on this. You know, Assad Quizlabash had this to say on the subject: instead of licensing our IP out to studios, meaning movie studios, we felt the better approach was for us to develop and produce for ourselves. One, because we're more familiar, but also because we know the PlayStation community and what they love. You see, these two statements between him and Sean Layden excites me as a fan, simply because they understand the tropes that come along with trying to produce a movie from a video game, and taking this approach saying, no, wait a second. We're going to do it ourselves simply because, I mean, there's Sony Pictures, right? I mean, this is, you know, obviously their movie division was not doing very well. Spider-Man helped them. Far From Home is going to put them over the edge. Venom did very well. So to see them come back, especially in the film part of Sony, where they were losing money, this could really bring them on the brink of success. I mean, a God of War movie would be magnificent. An Uncharted film would be great. There are so many IPs that they can go to town with. What do you think about this, dude? About them creating their own MCU type universe?
I think it's about time.
Okay, great points.
When you're a company that has Sony Pictures under your belt, and you've made stuff like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is amazing.
Oh, so good, dude.
My kids can't stop watching it. They watch it like every single day. Like, when you make stuff like that and you have all this IP, like, as Shady said, very cinematic, and in the video game aspect of it, you have a wealth of material to build off of, to make your own movies off of, which could then feed into more revenue for your PlayStation division. So I think they should have been doing this. But instead, what we got in the past was Powers. And if you guys remember Powers, that was the TV show they created for PlayStation.
Yeah, that was the one.
Oh man, like, I mean, like, it had potential because it was based off a comic book, I believe, but the implements, the execution, and
it was poor. It was poorly done. It was poorly done.
Awful.
Sure.
I mean, and it's just like that's what every time I think of PlayStation first party games and movies or TV shows or anything in that regard together, I think of Powers. I think of how awful that was. So it's like, them, and then now with Twisted Metal, like the last IP I would have expected them to do anything off of would be Twisted freaking Metal. Like, come on, like can you have Uncharted?
They have Horizon Zero Dawn. They have God of War. I mean, we could sit here and list 25 IPs.
They could have used Killzone. I mean, it didn't even
Killzone, Siphon Filter, anything. Twisted freaking Metal with an ice cream truck with a clown. Are you serious?
It's gonna be hot.
What are you doing here? Like, whose idea is this? Like whoever it is who came up with that idea, get up. Get a box, put all your stuff in it, leave. Like,
it was because of the budget. They just got a guy in a clown suit and a couple cars that they weld some jagged metal on, and you got yourself a show. I don't know. I thought it was a weird choice too, man.
Yeah, I was like, you haven't made a Twisted Metal game in how long? But you want to do a actual TV show or movie off of it now? Come on.
Maybe they're just setting the bar really low. So when
3D
bar is so low for Twisted Metal, you're gonna have to dig a grave 6 feet under just to find it. It's low. I'm sorry. Like do Siphon Filter. I would love Siphon Filter. Uncharted. I mean, how many times has the guy from Firefly and what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he did the little the fan version of it.
Nathan
Fillion.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion.
Yes,
he's perfect for the role.
He is perfect. Yeah, he'd have to slim down a little bit because he was a little chunky in that particular version.
That is true.
He was, but he's a great actor. And you know what? If you told him he was going to play Nathan Drake, that guy would get cock D in a couple of months.
He actually has slimmed down. He's in our new show. I think it's called The Rookie or something, where he's an older guy that joins the police force, and he's out there, kicking ass, I guess. And the boss doesn't like it because he's setting a dangerous precedent for other almost retirees joining the cops, thinking that they're superheroes. I hear it's a good show, actually.
Okay, cool. All right, so there you go. Nathan Fillion, sign him up. Sign the guy for the role.
Exactly. I mean, the guy is doing voice acting for so many different games, or at least was. I know he's not doing voice acting for Destiny anymore, but he does have a role in voice acting in the Halo series.
Yes.
He does a lot of stuff in gaming. This would be right down his alley. A lot of the gaming community would love to see him in that role. He's perfect for it, and they're familiar with him in another IP.
These productions,
anything but Twisted freaking Metal. Like I said, Twisted Metal reminds me of Powers. It it's of something.
It gives you that vibe, that Powers vibe.
Yeah, something that you did not have the budget for. And if you're not going to have the budget to do it justice, then you don't do it. That's why I'm saying things like SOCOM, Killzone, Siphon Filter, like those kind of shooter. Like you can kind of get away with not having to spend so much if it's like a tactical, military kind of outfit thing. But to go into superheroes, and then you're gonna have to you get the special effects for the abilities, and meanwhile your budget is trash. That's not going to work.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think that is an odd choice for sure. I mean, listen, because it's coming directly from Sony and their new production unit, if you will. I'm gonna reserve judgment to see that hopefully it's going to be good. But PTK, think about this for a second. Films based on video games, like I said earlier, have been usually horrible. But for Sony to have characters like Nathan Drake, Kratos, Aloy, Joel and Ellie, Sackboy, Cole McGrath, Sly Cooper, and so many more, this has tremendous potential. For you as a gamer, are you excited to see them create their own MCU?
I'm definitely excited to see them try and do so. Now, whether or not they can execute that idea, it's nice to see companies take a chance on themselves, because I feel like Sony has a stable, like you just named off those characters, and in those games that have the kind of feel that they can translate over to a TV show and or a movie. So they have that in their stable. So I think that gives them a leg up in this particular space. But it's very interesting. Now the whole Twisted Metal situation, I don't know who idea that was as far as what that choice was, because to me, you need to. I mean, that's a game that I don't even know if anybody's asking for, like the game, let alone a movie.
I would love a remake of Twisted Metal Black, personally.
Maybe a remake, something like that. But I mean, it's not a gigantic demand for you in the game, let alone a movie or a TV show. So I don't know how introducing that is going to be. Maybe somebody said in the chat it could potentially be a horror movie or something. I don't know how you could turn it into. Maybe you could turn it into a horror movie with the clowns. And
Sweet Tooth is pretty gnarly.
like that. Yeah, he's pretty gnarly. I mean, he'd be probably like a lead villain or something. But I guess it could work that way. But once again, it does seem a little odd, kind of left field with that stable of characters that they have that they could potentially choose from. I mean, I think Uncharted's a no-brainer. Even God of War would be cool. I don't know if they'd be a live action God of War because I could see that being extremely corny. Maybe like an animated, version of a God of War TV show. I don't know, something like that. But I think it's great they're taking a chance in this particular space. How it works out, that remains to be seen. But like I think it was Slow Mo said about Spider-Man: The Spider-Verse. They've kind of rebounded, with Sony Studios, and they're kind of on the up and up in this time of the year, essentially. So I just think that I'm going to reserve judgment, kind of like what you said. I mean, I don't really know what I want from Sony. I don't know if Twisted Metal is going to scratch that itch. I'd love for a video game movie to actually translate well. I think they could have picked a better, choice. I think, like I said, Uncharted would be a no-brainer to me. I mean, that would have been, you could do that in your sleep. I don't know why you wouldn't even choose that, especially being a game that everybody knows about. I mean, come out with an announcement saying Uncharted, the TV show or the movie, that's trending on Twitter for the next 2-3 days. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if Twisted Metal is it, but I think I'm going to reserve judgment as well and just give them the creative space, see what they come out with. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, my expectations weren't extremely high to begin with.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense what you're saying. There's no doubt about it. And reserving judgment is probably the best way to go, simply because we don't really know what they're going to do. Yeah. So I'm excited. But, Tempest, I want to get your opinion on this. Obviously, Microsoft is currently working on a big Halo project. Obviously, Halo is a massive IP for them, and they're spending some bucks. This is going to be a big cost. But Sony, obviously they're doing well in their gaming division. That's a proven fact. Sony Pictures revived itself with the first Spider-Man film, of course, and they had the Into the Spider-Verse, which it really was so well done. If you haven't seen that, my God, please go see that film. It's amazing. And of course, Venom shocked a lot of people. I actually really enjoyed it. Yes, it wasn't the original story told, but I'm very interested to see how they're going to do Maximum Carnage. This gives them another one up because of their IP. Their stock and IPs are huge, and if it's done right, look. Let me just say this: God of War, if you wanted to make it an animated film, hire the team that did Into the Spider-Verse with Corey Barlog being one of the guys that are going to be involved in this, because I love his work and what he did with God of War, and you might have another masterpiece. What do you think about that, dude?
Until I'm glad they had a few hits recently, but until recently and until Marvel came in and really made the movie for them, Sony Pictures was in trouble, I don't want them to get too far ahead of themselves. I like the idea of all this, but they gotta be really careful. And one thing we can count on is studios never do the obvious right thing. Like when that Gears of War movie comes out, I highly doubt they're gonna hire Dave Bautista to be Marcus Phoenix when he looks like the guy and sounds like him and is buff like him. They just never do the obvious. So Twisted Metal, that's a cool game, by the way. I love Twisted Metal Black. I used to play all the OG ones on PlayStation as well. I mean, it's an awesome game, but like we've already had how many Death Race movies are there, and they all suck. What are they going to do different? I mean, Mad Max was cool, but that was also done by an extremely good director who had a vision, so I don't know what the heck they're going to do. That was a terrible first choice, I think. I don't know. And as far as God of War being animated, they could go all out with the powers and making them look that strong and stuff like that. But just the look of that game, you could do a really gritty, You can make it gritty. You can make it like live action stuff. I think that one they could pull off live action. I don't know what to think of this, man. All I know is in 2013, Microsoft was like TV. It was terrible. And all of a sudden they're like, well, Sony Pictures, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, I think they should just stick to what they're really good at and just make more fantastic games. I'm not saying this is going to pull budget from the games, but I mean, they know they're good at that. So just keep doing it. And not doing the obvious. There's so many properties that are like The Last of Us, but people don't care. They keep rewatching them. I mean, there was just a new show that hit Netflix, Black Summer, I think it was called. It was
so good, dude.
Awesome.
That was great. Yeah. What a great zombie miniseries, if you will.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, I mean, no matter how many times they put it out, it's proven that people don't get sick of it. So why not do a show where you just hire a couple really good actors and actresses and go to town? They could probably even do it low budget and it'd come out great. So I don't know what the heck they're thinking of this Twisted Metal thing. It's crazy to me. So
yeah, I mean, it again, like I agree with everybody. It's an odd first choice, but we also know that they're going to be working with their other IPs. Mojo, I want to get your opinion on this. Good or bad, however Twisted Metal is going to turn out. I think that Sony starting their own production company where they're going to oversee the development of these films says a lot for me as a film goer, as someone that also enjoys the Sony first party universe that they have on their platform. I'm excited for this. Well, what is your take on what you've heard so far?
Holy cow, Boom. I want to say I've been waiting patiently to jump in on this, but I haven't. I've been jumping out of my skin. I'm gonna drop some serious Hollywood knowledge on you guys. I'm not just a gamer, and I'm about to take that gamer hat off. I'm a movie fanatic. I got about 5,000 DVDs and Blu-rays.
Nice.
I got laser discs. I got like 500 movies on laser disc.
Wow, laser disc, man.
Like I said, I got four tube TVs and anyway. All right, let's start first off. This, yes, needed to be done, but I worry about when they start talking cinematic universe at the very beginning. You got to build that stuff up right.
Yeah.
But okay. Uncharted is not going to be part of this, by the way. Uncharted's already been greenlit like 3 times and then can't. Sony keeps getting involved and screwing it up. Sony Pictures is actually Columbia TriStar, which they bought about 15, 18 years ago, give or take. Mm-hmm. And anyway, right now, the kid that plays Spider-Man, that is who the president of Sony, actual main Sony, not PlayStation, but Sony. That's who he wants to be, Nathan Drake, which is like
young Nathan Drake, yeah.
Even young, he's too little. It's not right. It'd be a horrible decision. And hopefully the Hollywood people that actually run and head the studio, they'll talk them out of that. And it will get greenlit. That's going to be a major motion picture, like AAA game. It'll be a summer box office whenever it gets done finally. But it has been in development hell for a while, and there's been many actors attached to play. But for whatever reason, I don't know. But getting back to where they were talking about, you got to get the right director, right producer, and people that understand video games. That is 100% true. But on the flip side, video game guys don't know how to make good movies. It's true. Movie guys don't know how to make good video game movies.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, they got to find the right people. And I believe they will. And this is in direct response to that Halo show. Not to get off topic, but
no, it's part of it. So again, this is a conversational podcast. Talk away.
Halo show is the real deal. Early reports out of it is going to be spectacular, and I think Sony just needed to we got to get in on this now. Yet they've owned their own film studio. Why haven't they put stuff out? And everybody says, "Oh, Sony Pictures have been in trouble and stuff." That's not necessarily true. What happened was they went about 5 years in a row where they released 3 movies, and they were mostly break even to maybe even slightly losing. And they were about to lose their funding. Movie studios don't pay for their own movies, by the way. That's a myth. They get outside financing that pays for these movies to be made, these big blockbusters. They go to like investment groups, usually out of Asia, that put up the money, and the money the entire money for the production gets put into an account, and then it's like bonded. You get the film greenlit, and that's why once it's greenlit and it actually starts filming, they've got set amount of time. The movies have to be finished on time. If they go over budget or long, that's where you run into trouble and productions get all screwed up. But I think this is an excellent idea. It's really, really long overdue. Like I said, one of the greatest crimes of the last 10 years is how has Uncharted not been made into a major.
That's a great point. That's a really, really great, because that's a fantastic franchise.
And like I said, there's been a couple times where I was reading things, reports. It was so close, and then it fall through. And maybe some of it is the trepidation that people don't want to put 300 million, 500 million, or like the crazy sums that Marvel's been putting into making their movies into a video game movie, because there have been so many bad ones.
Yeah, but if it's done right, the budget could be made back double. There's no doubt about it. Marvel's proven that.
And something like Uncharted, as long as it was done right. I mean, even look at the Tomb Raider movie, the rebooted Tomb Raider movie that's come out. That was actually not too bad of a movie.
That was actually pretty good, to be honest with you.
They kept the budget down on that, and they made money off of it. So I'm pretty sure there'll be another one. There'll be a second one.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, it's definitely possible. Really great point. Didn't know you had that many movies, dude. That is impressive, to say the least. You know, Don, I know you came late to the party. Before I get to your opinion on this, Harry Heck with the outstanding $5 super chat. He says Twisted Metal is a great idea. No canon's possible, as much as we actually know about what the game world. We have no clue what they're going to bring to the table. You got to remember, you see, you know, when you think of Twisted Metal, and he's right about this, simply because you're making a deal with a guy that's essentially the devil for, you know, to get this one wish that you have to win this tournament. So it could technically be a horror-based film with a very dark, you know, gothic kind of a feel to it. I listen, I'm not going to say in City, I'm a huge Twisted Metal fan. Twisted Metal Black's one of my favorite, you know, I guess shoot 'em up arcade racer kind of a things. And I like I said, the story's wacky, but I could see them doing it in film. It could certainly be dark. Don, first of all, I want to say, you know, thanks for coming anyway. I do appreciate you being here. I haven't had you on the panel in a very long time. I hope definitely all is well. But you know, you are a great person to end this particular topic on, simply because you are a developer, so you understand that there's a lot of things that go into making a game, number one, but more importantly, how important it is for the lore to be respected. Do you think Sony is doing the right thing by handling this themselves?
Well, first off, I'm gonna have to make it up to you and maybe show up next week or the following week.
You're always welcome.
Whenever you'll have me.
Absolutely, dude.
I felt really bad about that, but that being said, it's interesting. I've had this conversation before, and actually with somebody that's actually been my mentor, has helped me in my career and helped me get where I'm at. He left 2K Games to work in the movie industry. He's a 3D modeler. He does a lot of character rigging, things like that. So similar backgrounds to what I do. And we've had this conversation, and we don't think it's possible. And here's the reason why we don't think it's possible. Anywhere from, say, 70 to 90% of a story of a game is the player's interaction.
Okay, that's a good point.
That is the story, right? There are cutscenes. There's like what Kojima does, and, you know, and that stuff is great. But a good chunk of it, what gamers don't realize, because they're so part of it, they're so engrossed, is they are part of the story. So how do you translate that into movies? So you're taking away a huge portion of that entertainment and trying to translate to something that's less. And now
that never dawned on me.
Yeah, if you look at comic books, it's different. You're just filling in the gaps of all the different panels that are there, right? So you're actually additive in that situation if you stay true to the source material, why people like it. So yeah, I don't know how you do it. And I think there's a reason why we haven't been successful in the space when it comes to entertainment. If someone can crack it, they're going to crack the door wide open.
That gameplay storytelling you're talking about is kind of like when you're low on health, running from the zombie to get to where you need to go, and you're hiding behind the door. And like it's those little moment to moments that we tell each other when we're talking about our gameplay. It's like that type of storytelling doesn't translate as well to the screen. Is that what you mean?
It's
like
just
I think I know what you mean.
It's just not there, you know? And then when they do it, it's always, no matter how good the cinematography is, it's always like some sort of hokey thing, right? Like, you know, like they have to input this Street Fighter 2 move where he's doing this upside down spin kick, and you're like, oh my gosh, like they have to put it there, but it's like you just face palming the whole entire time. So I just don't think that media translates that direction. It can translate the other direction, but I don't think it can translate the opposite direction. And that's just, you know, my view. They've been doing movie adaptations, and some are better than others, right? But I feel like there's a big portion missing. What's up?
Would you feel that way for just a TV show versus a movie?
Yeah, I think because the interactivity is not there. You know, just not there. I mean, you're better off doing a spinoff of something in the world that's, you know, for example, like, let's take Halo. Remember that Hunt the Truth, like kind of almost podcast?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing, like in a movie form of Halo. Okay, it's set in the world of Halo. You know, Master Chief exists. You know, these other things are going on, but it's really not Halo. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if they're just going to retell Halo 1, it wouldn't work as well as just a side story, completely independent, but in the world.
Well, I know what you mean. Halo is unique as well because Halo has literature as well to kind of help with that in that regard. You could just take from the literature. You don't even have to pull from the game. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, one of the novels has more lore than two games combined.
Exactly. So they kind of bolstered by the literature, not necessarily just.
And that's exactly what they did with Hunt the Truth. Like Hunt the Truth is really about like Oni, and Oni covering up a lot of the foolishness and the terrible things that were done to the Spartan class that Master Chief came out of. And so it's the whole Hunt the Truth is trying to find, as a reporter or a journalist, trying to find out the truth of this entire Spartan class and what was really done to you know, and why this big cover up was happening with everyone who claimed they knew who Chief was originally, yet they didn't really have real information. And the deeper you get, the more, like, I mean, it was great. It was like great voice acting, the sounds, the music, everything was top notch. It just didn't really pertain to Halo Guardians in any kind of way, really. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to make it work. But I always remember back when before the MCU really started to get things going and make things work, and people will always say, you know, like, really making comic book movies is never going to work. So yeah, I mean, like, so far we haven't really seen video game movies work, but I think there's someone eventually who's going to be able to like
some director is going to do it the way that he thinks like us, but he comes at it from a gamer's perspective, but from a director, he's going to merge it some way. Someone's going to do that.
Yeah, and it's what I think it really is just getting the feel, getting an actor to really understand the motivations and the mannerisms, and to really become the characters that they're portraying or that are from the video game, and then also getting the same tone and feel of that video game and bringing that to the big screen. Like if a game has, like, if you bring up Street Fighter, right, like, it's difficult to get like live action actors to do kind of some of the stuff that they do. Like I think probably the closest part, like Mortal Kombat.
You're saying Jean-Claude Van Damme wasn't a good choice?
He certainly was not, sir.
That's where it screwed up. Like, as soon as they got Jean-Claude on board, he was like, "Yeah, I'm playing Guile, and it's going to be about me now." That's when it was out the door. I see, like, that kind of stuff is where we get off track. And I actually was having an argument with some people. This is a little bit off topic, but I think it kind of relates about how Fox handled the X-Men franchise.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
And how and it's my opinion that their biggest issue was the fact that they catered to the biggest stars way too much. When Hugh Jackman played Wolverine, it was Wolverine and his mutant friends. Everything was about Wolverine. Wolverine. Days of Future Past, he wasn't even supposed to go back in time. That was supposed to be Shadowcat. Ellen Page is an excellent actress, but for some reason she gets, put on the backseat for this other character. Same thing with Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence before pre-Hunger Games, her role as Mystique was what Mystique is. And then after Hunger Games, now Mystique has to be training the young mutants and all, and like it's just nonsense. That's not what the material is. And so if they really want to do this right, you sign on big names because you want people to go watch the movie. So it's fine. Like when Ubisoft got
John Berthel.
For
Ghost Recon.
No, I mean, who's the guy that did Assassin's Creed? He was Magneto in the
X-Men.
Yeah, you're talking about.
Yeah. It's fine to get him to play the role, but then like you gotta understand, like you're not bigger than this role. Like you can't let your star or your status supersede what this role is supposed to be in the story, or be like change how the story is supposed to be, because then you ruin the movie.
Well, I think just to piggyback off of that, I don't mean to cut you off, Somo, but that's a big thing, and I think that doesn't translate so well. The actors picking the right person to do it, because like you said, when you're representing a game, this game is bigger than your role when it's a video game movie, because that's why people are going to see it, because of the game, not necessarily because of your role. But I think that's something that's real prominent too, and that's a big thing that they got to get right. So I just wanted to say that for you to continue.
Well, if you think of most game voice actors, most of those guys are unknowns.
True.
No one really knows who you are.
True.
They have any clue. For the most part, they don't care. They just care that you are that character.
Yeah.
In regards to that, so like they don't even know what they look like, right? Like the voice actors, nothing to do with how the character looks like in real life. So
yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's just incredibly difficult. I commend for anyone trying, but I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of crappy ones before anyone can even pull it off.
Well, I mean, listen, it's only time is going to tell. But like I said, I like the fact that they're keeping it in house. They're keeping it close to the vest. They're gonna handle production, and all of the lore and content is going to be coming directly through Sony themselves. So that to me says that they're serious. But I'm going to say this. First of all, we're past the 2-hour mark, 15 minutes past. And someone dropped a $5 super chat. I cannot see who it is. Shady, if you wouldn't mind, if you can scroll back in the chat and just, let me know who it was. But I want to start doing outros, because obviously by the time outros are done, it's going to be 12:30. And I want to get everybody out of here because it is the holiday weekend. First of all, I want to thank everybody in the chat. You guys, we had almost 140 plus people watching, which is amazing. I hope you guys were entertained right before, great way to start your holiday. You listen to Breakfast with Boom, you have a great weekend with your friends and your family. I want to thank everybody for the super chat. That was extremely generous of everyone that donated today. It's greatly appreciated. Of course, my panel, which is massive, and Don, I know I had said in the DM, why that's how long is this podcast going to be?
No, I show up and I'm like, whoa, there's so many people. Like, they're all good people, of course, but there's so many.
Yeah, what winds up happening is sometimes my DM starts to fill up, and there are people that I say, yeah, you're going to be on this Friday. Like Mojo, we had talked, and just this week has not been a good week for me personally. My wife got hurt. It's just a lot of stuff going on. So thankfully, he was like, hey, listen, Boom, am I on? I'm like, oh, my God, yes, of course. Here you go. But, let's start with the hours. So Shady, of course, who is a permanent member of Breakfast with Boom. I cannot thank him enough. Yesterday, he flew in like a superhero and saved the Xbox Factor podcast because, of course, the Welsh Gamer, who's my co-host, had some family obligations. So Shady, tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter and listen to you where you show up on other shows.
Yeah, not a problem, Boom. And I was looking through the chat there, and actually the last super chat that I can see was the one about Twisted Metal and how we don't know what it can bring to the table.
Oh, okay, so that was it. Okay, so I did read it. Okay, that's my fault.
That's right.
Yeah.
But otherwise, thanks again for having me on the show. Like you said, I am on Breakfast with Boom each and every Friday morning, so you can catch me here. Starting next week on Wednesday morning, I will be co-hosting the Gaming News at Noon podcast with yourself there. I look forward to that. And then later on Wednesday evening, I am on the Xbox Nation podcast with Crap Gamer Reviews and Mooch and Xbot and Nox and Lady Foxfire. You know, it's a good crew. We have a good time over there. On Twitter, I'm so shady at the Sesh Empire. That is one word. And on Xbox, I'm so shady. That's 2 words. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out and hanging out with us. It was a fantastic time on the panel, guys. You were awesome. Love talking games with you. Happy gaming. Enjoy your weekend.
All right, thanks so much, Shady. Really appreciate it. And Slow-Mo, listen, dude, you have a few things going on. Obviously, you of course are on the Basement Radio Arcade podcast, but you also have one coming up. I'm not sure if it's this weekend, if maybe it's still, you know, it's been postponed simply because of the holiday weekend. But you're also on the Scumcast with the lovely Luca, and of course, you bring it to the table each and every week on both shows. Please tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, meaning Twitter, and also check you out on the podcast that you are a part of.
Sure, yeah. First, thanks for inviting me. I love having a nice Friday morning intro into my weekend where I get to talk gaming with a bunch of hardcore gamers. I mean, that's an excellent start to the weekend, if you ask me. Scumcast will be on this weekend. It's going to be 9 p.m. Easterns. It will probably be just as ridiculous as last week's episode.
I didn't hear it, but I heard there was a lot of chatter about last
yeah,
week's
it's
episode.
probably going to be a little bit of a continuation of that, and then some with all the Sony Microsoft partnership. Is it a partnership? All the ponies are like, no. Jim Ryan's going around telling everyone his boss is lying. You know, like this kind of nonsense is going on.
I saw the story. Listen, Jim Ryan is a small flea compared to the actual head of Sony. I'm just saying.
Exactly. So it's going to be live. Like if you want to hear a lot of people yelling over each other,
there's a lot of laughter though. You have to admit that.
A lot of laughter and a lot of insults and passive aggressive stuff going on. Check us out. I'm sure you're going to have a good time and laugh a whole lot. If you guys want to check me out on Twitter, it's the same name, @Slomo_Backslap. I'm usually just talking about gaming and laughing at all the foolishness from the fanboys. So it is what it is. And like I said, like great chat. The chat was live today. Really into it. Into the discussion and
I love that. I really do. I think that was the show.
Yeah, when the chat's really giving you a lot of information and a lot of feedback before what we're discussing, it's always the best. And this panel's awesome. So yeah, great show, guys.
Thank you so much. Real quick, PTK, before I get to you, brother, Chris Hughes Sr. with the outstanding $5 super chat. He says, the panel has so much knowledge, my head is hurting me in a good way. Listen, Chris, thanks so much for the super chat. Thanks for being here. And I'm glad that you're enjoying the banter. PTK, listen, dude, I love what you do on your channel. I think that you are a rising star in these YouTube streets. Your panel is unbelievable. You added someone new, which is amazing. I got a chance to work with him last weekend, which was ultra cool. Please tell everyone where they could follow you on Twitter, because you do have some pretty awesome polls that you put out there. But more specifically, sign up to be to listen to your shows. Hit that sub button on your channel, because you deserve more views for sure on your shows. Tell everyone about that, dude.
Appreciate it, man. Just first and foremost, I just want to say thank you, Boom, for inviting me on the show once again. Second time here, man. It's been amazing. I've had such a good time. The panel's been amazing. Your chat is lit live, man. It's so amazing. No craziness, which is you don't see that too often. That just goes to show you how well you actually do the show and how everybody respects you. So once again, I appreciate you inviting me on. But you find me on Twitter. It's my first name, last name, Darnay Reddick. I screwed up and didn't actually put PTK Blam like I should have, but either way, first name, last name. And he mentioned my podcast, which is tomorrow. 6 p.m. I'd say Mountain Time. I'm in Arizona, so my time doesn't change. I don't know
it's 3 hours earlier than New York.
So 3 hours earlier than New York at this current point. So for about 6 months at least. Then it'll change again. But either way, find me on Twitter. Come subscribe to the channel. We got a lot going on. I got a lot of cool stuff. Boom, you're always welcome on. And I just want to let everybody know on the panel as well, you guys are all welcome to be on the show. You never know when you get a random tweet or DM. I know I have reached out. I believe Shady, I believe I've talked to him in DMs before, but you guys are all welcome to be on the show as well. But thank you for inviting me on, man. And yeah, go subscribe if you guys enjoy the content. Hit that like button on those videos as well.
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate you being here. And of course, Tempest Sun, who of course is the master of the arts when it comes to not only playing Rocket League, but he's also the master of the Black Desert, which I believe you play with your wife as well, which is pretty freaking awesome.
Oh yeah.
You know, tell everyone they can follow you on Twitter, dude.
Yeah, on Twitter, I am at the Tempest Sun. My gamer tag is Tempest Sun with a space. And I just want to say, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You know, show Shady and BoomStick. You guys are my favorite YouTubers.
Oh, thanks, dude. We appreciate
absolutely
that.
love the fact that I can come on the show with you guys. Mojo and PTK and Slow Mo. I've been on the show with you before, but it's always a pleasure. Nice to meet you guys. And the Don, just want to say personally to you, dude, every time you guest appear on a show, I absolutely love it. I look forward to it. I haven't been seeing enough of it lately. I know I'm selfish. I know you're probably busy, but it's awesome to be on the show with you. And
love it, Don.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, so it was nice being on the show again, guys. I hope to do it again soon, and love it. Good times.
Well, great to have you here. And of course, Mojo Blues making his first appearance on the Breakfast with Boom panel. Of course, it will not be your last. I think you knocked it out of the park, my friend. You are a quality community member. You support so many YouTubers where you're always showing up in the chat and giving your gaming and movie knowledge, which is awesome. Please tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter.
Mojo_Blues on Twitter. Yeah, I like to support streamers, podcasters, whoever shows that I like. I retweet their stuff, and I'm at work 12 hours at night. I got to do something to stay busy. But I'm a full-time panel member on Mads Gaming's
nice dude
next gen podcast Sundays at 4 p.m. It's more techie based. We're gonna have a fire show this Sunday because AMD just dropped some info on their Zen 2s, and there's been some specs, dropped and speed test and things. But anyway, again, thank you for having me on. And I can say I could actually retire now because I've been on a podcast with the Don. Man, Don, I'm serious, it's level-headed guy I've ever seen on any podcast.
Yep.
When somebody gets out of control and starts fanboying or which is a good thing. I get excited and I love to start talking, but it's nice to have somebody kind of rein it back in and say, okay, this is how it is. So anyway, that was pretty cool being on here with you, as well as everybody. It's been really fun.
Well, listen, it's great to have you here, dude. And of course, you will definitely be getting an invite back. And of course, the Don, who, like I said, I truly enjoy having you on, not only because I consider you a good friend, but I love your knowledge as a gamer, but also as a developer. That is why your opinions are so well sought out. But more specifically, people like to listen to you because you are extremely level-headed, and you've kind of been out of the scene for a little bit, probably because you're working. But tell everyone where they can follow you on YouTube. And now you still have a channel, but where they can find to listen to you on some future podcasts.
Yeah. So the best thing to do is definitely follow me on Twitter. Everything that I have going on in my life is listed there. And yeah, I mean, man, so many good opportunities within the community to talk to people. And thanks for everyone that's here on the panel that's giving me compliments. That's huge. I am trying to grow my Mixer channel, actually. I'm actually putting some actual effort on there. So everyone knows what's going on there. The whole point of the Mixer channel is, well, it's fun to talk about games, but it's funner to play them. So it's to interact with the community, but I'm also going to have behind the scenes building a Project Pimp Cup. You guys are going to start seeing how the models and all the character designs are going to be done live on Mixer. And if you can't catch it live on Mixer, I'm going to have a condensed version that I'm going to upload on my YouTube channel. So sometimes sitting through 4 hours of someone sketching on a model may be entertaining to some, but other people it would just drive them nuts, right? So I'll have a condensed version, so it's a little more entertaining for people that are not part of that world. So that being said, yeah, that's what I'm pretty much doing. And then shout out to I would say XBot. I mean, that guy he's the one that gave me the voice. If you guys want to give anyone credit in the community, it was XBot. So that guy doesn't get enough views on his next podcast on Saturdays. So definitely go check him out.
Okay, that sounds good because he does do a lot for the community, and he does do. I mean, the production that he puts into each show is tremendous.
Awesome.
There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. The guy puts the work in, and he's another one. I mean, again, it's tough being a small YouTuber. I mean, I've only been doing it. I'm not even 2 years in, and I'm almost. I'm just a hair away from 2,600 subs. So trust me. When you look at the numbers of some of these people that just yell into a mic, right, and they have 500,000 subs, it sometimes it's daunting and it's a little disappointing where you put the work in, because I'm up late 3 times a week putting in writing these things, and each one of these shows they're 3,000 plus words. The Breakfast with Boom was over 4,000 words. And I didn't even get a chance to get to all the topics. So, I mean, sometimes, you write stuff that you don't even get to. Today's a perfect example. There are 3 additional topics, but I over prepare. But Don, it's great to have you here. If you want to come back next week, we'll talk DM or the week, whatever works for you. You're always welcome on this show.
How about I just commit next week if you would have me on?
Absolutely, dude.
All
You're
right.
on. End of story. The Don will be here. I'm going to make an advertisement of it. I love having you on. Love your perspective of gaming. Everyone on the panel completely knocked it out of the park. This could not have gone any better, I think, honestly. Everyone was into the topics, which excites me as a writer. That I make the right topics and everyone's excited for them, which is great. But more specifically, the chat was excited for it, and that's the people that listen. So if I can get both sides excited for what we're doing on this show, it makes me really satisfied as a content creator. And I won't hold any up anymore. We're almost at 12:30. It's been a great 2.5 hours. Again, thank the chat. Thank you, Generosity, of course, for the super chats. Thanks, my panel, for being here. Everyone have a safe and lovely holiday weekend. Eat lots of hamburgers and hot dogs. Hang out with your friends and family. Do not drink and drive. And also, please treat others how you would like to be treated. Very simple knowledge. And then one other last thing, it does not cost anything to be nice. Just remember those, and it will take you really far in your life. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.